Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button, Season 4, Episode 32. I am your host, Alejandro, and joining me in his first ever podcast appearance, new recent Season Gaming Contributor Edition, Joseph La Russa AKA DonLionheart. I know you as DonLionheart because of your PSN, but and I just hear Don. So how you doing, Don?
Good. How you doing, Alejandro? How's life over there?
Yeah, life is just kind of ongoing, as it is when you're like in a Latin American country with a weird president here. But,
well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here and honored to do my first podcast appearance with you.
Yes, no, you're welcome. And thank you also for kind of like jumping in on the opportunity, because I had another guest lined up that he, obviously life happened and it couldn't happen. So I put the call last night being like, I'm going to shoot my shot. And you don't want to do it, I'm willing to kind of like delay just in case. And there you are. It's like, I kind of want newer like voices to kind of show up here in the show, especially from Season Gaming. I've had Eric, I've had Steve, I've had Brian, I've had Ain.
Oh, cool.
So I kind of want to have more, like even Sardonisms, Ray. She's one of our female contributors that also joined this year. I even told her I'd be down to have you.
You got to get Hogue and Travis on.
I actually have had Hogue and Travis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were some of the first ones, actually. I actually got Travis in October, and then I got Hogue for a special Final Fantasy episode. I tried to get Hogue back again. He's just he's been very busy man, and kind of like he's still kind of going through his recovery.
Of course, yeah.
But those were fun episodes from back in October. If anyone wants to kind of go show, but glad to have you here. Don, I'm going to refer to you as Don, even though you're Joseph.
Don,
because that's
Don is perfect. You call me Don, I'll call you Alex.
Yes, exactly.
Good.
Yeah, we refer to how we call each other in our Season Gaming kind of circles, despite this podcast not being in any way, shape, or form associated. I just kind of write for them, so it's a nice crossover. But yeah, glad to have you here, Don, especially with your fellow trophy loving, because you're the big trophy hunter, kind of like I am. Like sometimes to against our better selves. So can't wait to maybe discuss a little bit about trophies if the conversation happens. But before we get into that, this is just a reminder that this is the X Bottom Podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Fridays from 10 a.m. onwards, God willing, available on the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at tinyurl.com/escapegaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. So since you're the guest here, Don, you have the floor. Tell me, what have you been playing? But before I say that, we can kind of announce that you have been playing what's it called? Ara History Untold?
Ara History Untold, yes.
Yeah, so that's the upcoming Xbox game, or at least Xbox associated strategy game.
It's Xbox Game Studios published. Mm-hmm. It is not an Xbox console game. It's a PC only release right now. I'm not sure if it's coming to other consoles, but yes, I have been playing Ara History Untold for a while, thanks to Xbox for the code, which I got through Season Gaming, of course. And the embargo for that game will be on Sunday at 9:01 a.m. Eastern time. That's what the embargo lifts, and that's what they said we could say. So look forward to that review upcoming in the near future.
Yeah, and since this episode is gonna go live immediately after we record it and I edit it and all that, for listeners, that'll be this Sunday. So you're going to get to hear Don's first official Season Gaming review. So lucky for him, he got it through embargo. It took a year for me to get one of those.
Hopefully, we have to see if we'll get the video up. The written part will at least be done. I don't know about the video yet, but at least the written part will be ready.
Like in my estimation, as long as one of those hits right in, I think that's because that's how it was for me with Star Wars Outlaws. Like written came out right in embargo time, and then the video we launched it like the day after. So as long as one of those hits is like, we're good. You can say you were part of the pre-release environment. So
yeah, for sure.
But without getting into spoilers, what was it like for you, like getting to play something that early? Like without like what's your feelings?
Yeah, it was kind of weird first, mostly because you have to remember to like clear all of your settings that let people see what you're playing, like your Discord connections and your Steam connections. And I messaged Ains of Season Gaming just to be like, hey, I'm playing this game, as you know, you gave me the code. Can you see that I'm playing it right now? And he goes, no, you're good, man. I was like, great. But it was cool. It was fun to just be in early and knowing that I really needed to give critical thoughts on the game, which is something that I do for myself, but I've never had to write them down or express them to other people, which is not to say I don't express them, but now I have to express them, being the trick there.
Or more like that, like thoughts that are exclusively your own and you don't have anyone else to tell you, kind of paint you at least a little bit of like.
It's honestly the killer part, because I think things and I'm like, am I the one thinking this or other people thinking this? And I imagine, I have that feeling when I play a lot of games anyway, because I don't tend to read reviews for things until I've played it or at least had some level of exposure to it. And if I can, Twitter makes it a little bit hard to do that because people just post their scores, but I try to even avoid the scores that games are getting for games.
Yeah, that's so hard for me. That's so hard for me with all that, everyone that I follow and the notifications that goes, like that's always like a given. I don't read them. I just kind of get now, like I at least hold myself to at least just get the Snapchat, and then once I'm done playing, then I can go be like, okay, let me go read this to see if they got it right. And I'm like, oh, I didn't feel that at all. Oh, I actually felt exactly that way. So the Star Wars one was funny that way because the way I had to set up with my podcast co-host Paul, who's not here because I account share with him. At least I had him because he was able to kind of mooch from me. I had to put him through the exact same thing of like, you hide your trophies, you hide everything. We're not gonna tell anyone that you were playing when you were playing it, but we're gonna chat between, because I kind of at least had that be like, okay, this janky, right? It's like wrong. like I had the kind of like, it was interesting going through those, like that thought process with Outlaws, because I remember it was around the time we were also playing Concord, and we were doing kind of like those nights where we were all playing together. And it was like that one that I joined the chat early with Ames and Elu, who is our editor. And that was like after my first full night where I spent all that time in that first planet, and I ranted hard about that thing, because I was like at my wit's end of like, this planet sucks. It's like there's like this stealth is like so it's so unfair. It's like it feels like it's too limited. It feels like I'm playing an Uncharted game that has been like stretched into like an open world game with like barely any option. I feel I should have those options. Why can't I pick all those weapons? I was able to kind of rant that way. And it's just so funny how in that game, like halfway through that game, you can have like a complete like split in opinion of like, oh, I'm actually starting to like this a little bit more. And that's kind of where I landed. It's
a good segue, because that's, on what I've been playing, that is the game that I'd put the most time into recently, aside from playing Ara most recently, was Star Wars Outlaws.
You platinumed it.
I did. I platinumed it. Star Wars Platinum, there's basically two camps of platinums for me. There's, oh my goodness, I really love this game, I want to get the platinum in it. And then there's, I'm so close to the platinum, I might as well just go for it.
I've done those too. I totally relate.
I have to say that Star Wars fell more into that latter camp of I'm so close, I might as well just go for it, because I think by the end I needed I think it was a trophy of destroying capital ships, which sucked, and there was a trophy of
Sabak.
No, I did Sabak anyway. I play Mahjong in Yakuza games. I play Sabak. It's whatever. No, there was one other trophy that was a little bit frustrating. Oh, it was the one where you had to shoot with certain enemies, shoot enemies with their guns or whatever, or
the Death Troopers
picked up, and
the Death Troopers one. That's the last.
That was easy. I killed so many Death Troopers. That one was so easy too. It was like, but it was good. I really enjoyed Star Wars Outlaws. I don't think I'm quite as high on it as you ended up getting to. It's probably more in like that 7.5 range for me, because it is a little janky, and I'm actually not really a Star Wars fan. I like Star Wars well enough. I've seen the movies and whatnot, but I don't think Star Wars is the end all be all or anything. Like it's not that important to me. I only saw them for the first time in the last decade or so. So
I grew up with those.
Right, a lot of people do, and so for me, I've really much enjoyed the game itself, because it is still a Ubisoft game, and I enjoy Ubisoft games. Assassin's Creed is one of my favorite franchises. I have a number of platinums in Assassin's Creed games, not just because I'm so close, because I'm never close in Assassin's Creed games, but because I enjoy them.
No, those are fun to get. Those are really fun to get.
But the thing that I have to say, I've not fully understood the discourse on the stealth being so hard or broken, because the stealth wasn't great. It was not fleshed out. That's the key of what it was. It was very underbaked. That's the word when I've been talking with my friends about it. I've said it's just underbaked. You needed more options. You needed more things that you can do in stealth, rather than just use your laser and hit people over the head and whistle. Like that was the biggest problem with Outlaws, is stealth. But even that aside, not being the Star Wars fan, it was so immersive to just be in those worlds and explore, and you really felt like you were there. And I really enjoyed the ship combat, and I think the story was kind of fun, even if it wasn't the most original story in the world. It was still well written, and yeah, I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed my time with it. I think it took me 58 hours for the platinum or something. And
that's still a lot of time for how soon that game came out. Like, the game just came out like 2 weeks ago, so you were really playing it for a while.
Well, I am the kind of gamer who does not really bounce from game to game. If I'm playing a game, I'm probably playing that game, and that's about it. So when I was done with Star Wars, or getting close to done with Star Wars, and I had the opportunity for Ara, I was like, I gotta finish Star Wars, because I don't do that bouncing thing. You know, my what have I been playing list is really, you know, Ara, Outlaws, and Genshin, because I play Genshin Impact every day. I always do Genshin dailies and the weeklies and all that.
We all need that live service game. We all need kind of like that live service game that you can kind of retreat to, kind of like in between of your focus. So I get it. It's
just a nice, you know, 15-20 minutes every day maybe, and you know, maybe an hour a week on the first 3 sets of everything, and it's nice and chill. And so between Outlaws and Genshin and then just regular work, my time is pretty full up of games, but always looking forward to new things coming out, of course.
Oh yeah, and there's still so much to come out for the rest of this year, I tell you.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, like the funny thing is that had I not been this big Star Wars fan that I am, or at least kind of like having grown up, I've identified so many cornerstones, especially when you go through Tatooine. Yeah. And being able to kind of like me walk through Tatooine, like remembering the movie, seeing everything being exactly in that place. It's like, that was kind of like the magic of Outlaws that put it above. But I was kind of like, everyone that tells me it's a 7.5, I'm like, I think fundamentally I agree. It's like, that's kind of like the difference of having something when you're not as super into the AP as someone. And that's kind of then when you see the AP being nailed, that tends to like nudge it up a little bit. So
what was cool to me was that I was trying to find these locations, but my memory of these movies, because I've only seen them once, I've really never seen those early movies more than one time, and so I'm trying to remember, like, I guess this is what it was like in you know, episode 4. This seems like it might have been the cantina, and yeah, so it's I did not have that same experience that you did, because you're so much more familiar with it than I am. But I was trying. I was like, I think this is such a good representation that I'm sure if I knew this better, I would know exactly where I was without a map, you know?
Yeah. Hey, but hey, 7.5 to an 8, it's not like it's that massive of a gap either. So
no, not at all. Like I said, it's just that little bit. I think you got that little boost of, you love this IP, and I didn't have that little bump there.
Oh yeah, and that's totally fine. It's still like, it lands in where I said that it's still like, when you see it overall, it's a perfectly good game that you wish could be greater than it is, especially with like how well the immersion actually works. It's just death by 1,000 cuts that prevent it from being kind of like the dream Star Wars game that the Star Wars fans have always wanted. That kind of like one game where you can like live and breathe that world, where you're just kind of like chilling. And
just the ability to ride on that speeder was cool. I mean, it controlled terribly, but just riding on the speeder was really fun to do, and to, you know, I saw people criticizing the space controls in combat because it was too arcadey, and I'm like, I kind of want it to be arcadey. That's why you want.
It's why I hated what's the Squadrons that came out like 4 years ago. Like,
yeah,
because it was like, it's like, it was all first person. It was like a sim, and I'm like, I'm on a sim when I'm flying an X-wing. I want my arcade, like feeling like I'm like the best pilot in the galaxy or something, like gods and all
exactly.
that.
The moment you start hearing lasers in outer space, I don't want it to be realistic. I want it to be the arcade, because I'm hearing the pew 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 of the laser.
Exactly. It's and Outlaws for me really felt like came alive when you were able to start flying into space, and kind of like that. The scene, how they were able to master the loading to make a seamless transition. Yeah. You're into Shara here, going to space, and now going into hyperspace to go to one of the different planets. It's have it all kind of be connected.
It was, the environment is what sells that game. I mean, the environment and how they did that is really what brings it to like a 5 level in the first place, and then just the rest of the stuff they put on top is how it comes up to that 7.5 for me. And honestly, if the treasure chest tracking system was not a nightmare and it wasn't quite so buggy, because I hate games that don't just tell me where the thing is. Like, if once I've found it, just put it on the map somewhere. Don't give me a search radius. I don't want a search radius. I just want to know where it is.
Yeah, especially with the bad signposting in some of these maps, especially in Toshar, when you're kind of running around and be like, is there somewhere that I can climb? Why can't I climb this rock that is like, I should be able to climb it? Oh, suddenly now I can climb it. It's like so inconsistent. But a sequel would be awesome. President Fingers. Yeah.
I think it would. I think if they use that base and they don't need to spend so much time building all of it, and then they actually do the full bake of the stealth mechanics and the rest of it. Because I actually think the shooting felt great. I love shooting that blaster, and I thought it got really powerful. I think I had 7 health bars by the end from different attachments. Like all of that was great. I did all the experts. My experts were 100%ed all the way through.
I love the experts. Yeah, I love the expert system because such a nice, cool. Such an organic way for you to kind of learn your abilities. It's kind of like someone in this galaxy will learn from the best, and that's kind of like the idea of like the experts.
I wish you'd gotten to like you not you had to, but you could have gone to the experts and like done more with them, because you can find one of the experts that you meet in early on. You can find her again on the space station, in the Renpali space station, and you chat with her, and she just like doesn't really say anything, and it's like it could have been a little bit more developed, a little bit more integrated into the system, instead of just being a screen. You know, you have a fast travel point, you go to them and you do something, and they say something, instead of just click the button and fill the meter to show that you've
things that they can little things that they can definitely improve. But then when you think that they made this one in 3 years, they're not like that. This wasn't something that so they had told me that this was like developing in 5 or 6 years, like we hear from many games nowadays.
Or cost $400 million.
Exactly, or cost $400 million. It will feel different, but then when you realize how much they were able to accomplish in the tiny little bit of time, which is kind of like why I advocate for the Ubisoft kind of open world, because it's like sometimes you have your steakhouses and then you have your McDonald's. Sometimes you kind of need the fast food, or I think I think it was you that put the analogy that Ubisoft is more like a gourmet at a hotel. I think it was you that said.
I don't think that was me.
I could have sworn it was you in our chat. It's certain because I had said it was fast food, but whoever said it, but I like kind of like that idea that you either have your like 5-star meals that are super expensive and they're really nice when you get them, but it's that what makes them special is when you don't get them so often, because that's what you keep special, and then you have somewhere here. I feel that's where Ubisoft has kind of found its niche, and I will hope that it still remain there, because it's like you need that while we wait for these games that take 2 college careers to come out.
Yeah, you really do. And to me, you know, the other thing, I don't want to keep us on this topic too long, of course, but the other part of it is I think that Ubisoft doesn't get enough credit for actually being like making good games. You know, Star Wars Outlaws, a good game. Okay, yes, it was a good game, I thought, and Valhalla is a pretty good game, and Mirage was a good game, but like Odyssey is fantastic. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is one of my favorite games of all time. It is an epic journey in a scope and scale, and Cassandra as a character, like I think that people say, oh, Assassin's Creed is, you know, blah blah blah, it's just the same formula, it's nonsense, whatever, and like, okay, you can make that argument if you want to, but I'm sorry, it is still well written, whatever you want to say. It's a well written game. It's gorgeous, it controls really well, it's well performed. It's engrossing to just
game. Live. It's engrossing. They're like amazing historical kind of backgrounds. Do you like playgrounds? They are. Just to kind of live in, and
they really are. And I think that they've done that for a long time. And you know, anyone who wants to you know, mock them for being repetitive, I mean, that's your opinion, I guess. But I think that the repetitive nature is it allows them to keep making the games at a quicker pace, but still have these things that really excel, like their stories. Because I think Assassin's Creed stories are usually really good.
I love the Valhalla story. I love the Valhalla story in particular. Like
Valhalla's good. I felt like Eivor controlled like he was 10 times his size. He was very awkward to control, unlike Cassandra or any of the
Cassandra was a demigod in comparison to like Eivor.
But the story of Valhalla is good. It's a good story for sure.
Yeah. Especially if you were like an Assassin's Creed fan that loved the dual nature of the storyline, like what that thing did to like merge both those things together was like super clever for people that were like into the series since 2007. Obviously, the only problem is that it took 150 hours. So,
yeah, I mean, I've been playing since 1. I played 1. I played all of the mainline games. I haven't played the side scroller spin-offs or anything like that, but I played the Vita game and the PSP game. I played those. I really enjoyed them.
Bloodlines and Liberation, Here's the thing: if you ever want to like geek out about Assassin's Creed, I'm your guy, because I'm that way. I wrote the ranking. You can actually go look for the ranking that I did for Season Gaming about like which ones I ranked, so see if you agree or disagree with like some of my choices.
Sure.
I know for sure that was the first time I ever got a death threat over something I wrote.
Oh my god!
So that's how I know I made it.
That's crazy.
So with the things that I've been playing, Don, I played and beat the Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown DLC. I'm debating if it's gonna be a review or an impressions, because that thing was so short that I don't have really much to say other than.
What was the cost?
It's $5.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like super. It was $5. They gave us Ubisoft. Thank you for the code that you sent us for the complete edition. That included the code, so I could play like the day before it came out, basically.
Yeah.
So I love Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. That was like one of the first games that came out this year. I'm a big Prince of Persia fan from like back in the day, or more the PS2 era Prince of Persia, the Sands of Time, War Within, and Two Thrones, which are basically the bones that eventually grew to then be inserted into Assassin's Creed from like animations and kind of like that. And in a bunch of styles, like you can see being birthed in the Prince of Persia style. So that series has been gone for so long, and they brought it back as a Metroidvania. And Metroidvanias are like a acquired taste for me. I love many of them. I dislike so many of them too. And I really love that Lost Crown as a platformer that really chains together like insane platforming challenges that when you like conquer them feels like very rewarding, and its combat is very the combat was very hit or miss for me, that it was like sometimes I feel like I could get a handle of a few enemies that then suddenly would get out of sync, and then like I would perfect parry them with no problem sometimes, and then I'm like getting hit over and over. I'm like, I'm the same thing. What's happening? So it was hard to get a flow on that, and then has the Dark Souls style. Like you died, enemies respawn. You're now back in the checkpoints. I know you're rolling. So it kind of had that, but I really like in the things that I really loved about it. It was just kind of pieces that were not quite up to par. I feel the DLC is just basically more of that, harder. Especially when it comes to like those platforming challenges. It was funny, this came out around the time that I play Astrobot, because Astrobot is like generally pretty easy with the exception of a few levels. And I was like, for anyone crying that this is too easy, go play this DLC, because this thing was gonna kick your ass immediately. Like I was like, it was like especially here's the worst part. It's a DLC inserted halfway through the campaign. Obviously you can kind of backtrack depending on where you were in your save. So imagine me that I have not played it since January, like coming to this DLC to review it like 9 months later. I was like, I'm incredibly rusty. This DLC removes the coolest abilities that you eventually get, like a double jump and other stuff, to kind of like distill things into like a few things. And then immediately threw you to like a boss fight that I was like, oh man, I'm getting tilted with this thing. I literally had to stop playing and go play Space Marine 2, which was the other thing that I was playing that I got to play with Ian's a little bit, the co-op, because that was another one that we were deciding if we were doing either a review or impressions, because we didn't really get code before it was out, and he got a code like 3 or 4 days afterwards, and I had already bought it because I needed to use my Concord money on something, so I put it into Space Marine 2. So I had to play Space Marine 2 briefly to kind of like unwind and be like, okay, I'm gonna go back in because I need to at least see this through. And then when everything started to come back to me, it's like I really enjoyed the challenge. It was a little too brief. I wish there was like more to it. But I'm like, it was just $5. So it's like, I feel like this is definitely for people that love the thing that this thing does best, the platforming, and figure out how to chain every freaking ability that's available to you at pitch perfection. I think this is kind of like what you want. So if I were to rate it, 7. Like if I were to rate it, that's how like quick it was. Like when I finished, I was like, man, it's like, I know we have you just start written guidelines, like how much we have to write. And I was like, I don't feel like I have enough to say about like what was included. I feel like an impressions piece would just be better. So it has been just that. So of new stuff has been the Lost Crown DLC and Space Marine 2. Space Marine 2 is have you ever played Gears of War in your life? Ever?
Nope.
Never. So
I've seen people play it, but because my neighbor as a kid had an Xbox, but I never played it.
Yeah. So Space Marine 2 is basically, let us do a Gears of War style kind of game at a time where Gears of War has been basically dormant. This is a sequel to a game that came out all the way back in 2011. It still kind of like harkens back to old school shooters that are not about storytelling or seriousness or high drama. It's more about just kind of like the bloody war and just kind of like the violence of things and all that. And last week I was really raving about this one because it's funny that Space Marine 2 and Astrobot kind of came around the same time because they feel like member berries, the game, in specific areas. Like Astrobot is the member berries of remember what PlayStation used to be and compared to like what it is now. And then Space Marine 2 was like, remember when shooters were not all live services, when there was like your shooters or your campaigns with your co-ops, with your separate multiplayers, that was all about just the quick get in and get out, and you didn't have to get bogged down with
the good old days.
Yeah, exactly. The good old days of like the pre Last of Us days, where before the storytelling in gaming got so serious in a way. And by the way, I like The Last of Us, but that's the thing. Like I feel like a lot of people will try to aim for that prestige drama now when something's what you want is a fun video game. And I feel Space Marine did that. After last week, and I played more of the campaign. I beat the campaign. It's not too long. Like the last third of the campaign kind of lost a little bit of steam for me, in that like you start fighting enemies that start shooting at you a lot in a game that ostensibly is more about melee. Obviously you have guns to shoot and all that, but you have kind of like this amazing swords where you're just kind of like slashing and hacking all these aliens. If you've ever seen Warhammer, like whatever those creatures are, you start like aiming and hacking and all that. And it's less fun when you're trying to do all those monsters thrown at you, and then you have to fight other Warhammers that are like hit scan laser hitting you from everywhere, and you start to see your health like immediately like melt at a normal difficulty. I'm like, oh, God damn it, this is so annoying. And the way you executed them, because you can like damage them enough for them to start like beeping. You go click the right stick and then do like that. Execute. It's like I kept doing executes and those like armor enemies. It was the exact same animation over and over and over and over. I was like, oh come on! It's like it is like we're losing a little bit of the originality, but that's when it ended. So I was like, oh, okay, thank you. So it's
there
like,
you go.
Yeah, it's like at least. Oh yeah, games used to know when to end. In other games, like one that I'm currently replaying that I'm gonna get to next, it's like you would get into like those like sections of stuff where you start like losing steam and all that, but you still have a long game ahead of you. Then that would tend to kind of color your experience negatively, despite everything around it maybe being better than those sections that are annoying. And Space Marine 2, I was like, okay, he got out right at the perfect time, and the co-op's really fun. Like it was really fun getting to play with Ains. You get to pick from 6 different classes that have like their own different ability, and you kind of go through like long levels in the co-op that sometimes you have to kind of hold in and hold down a specific area where you're getting sore, and you have to like work together to fend off enemies, and then you go through levels as you're like platforming around or like doing specific mechanics that it asks you. So then sometimes you get into like really fun boss battles that require specific things that you need to do in a way that's very varied and makes me really happy about how fun Space Marine 2 is most of the time, especially harkening back to old school sensibilities. I still need to finish a bunch of co-op missions and play more of the multiplayer. The one thing that I would say is they need to sort out is the matchmaking. It's awful. So it's like, really? Especially with like cross. I literally kidding. I spent 20 minutes with things trying to. Can you connect with me? Can you connect with me? We would get stuck in the loading screen that we were required to kind of reset the game to get to get it working. So I was like, oh, it's like, yes, I know you're not the high AAA studio to do this. I get it, but please sort it out. So a little Summon Signs reference.
Right. Please sort it out. I've heard the discourse on the game be that it actually can be kind of tough. That there are like you know, you're gonna go down moments, and it's heard. Everything I've heard has been pretty positive on it. I don't have any prior experience with Space Marine or anything like that, or Gears of War as the type predecessor or anything like that. But like I my only exposure really to Warhammer is like the Vermintide games and whatnot, which can be fun with a group of friends. But it's cool to hear that they have that Space Marine is so well received, because you know they delayed it a whole year. It was supposed to come out in December or sometime late last year, and then they just pushed
it was November from last year, and then they suddenly pushed it to kind of get away from everything.
Pushed it an indefinite length of time. It's like, whoa, okay, you know how often do you hear that? And it's a good thing, but you know sometimes it is.
Matchmaking aside, it's pretty solid. Like a lot of this game is like amazing skybox design, the art like an art style that is like, man, if this was just a small team that did this, bravo. Like this, like so like pleasing to the eye. And again, just a really fun time. I feel this kind of game is just gonna become more and more popular now because you know Pendulum Swing, and it's like we've gone so hard into like the high expensive, super like long in development, like prestige style that I feel like more people kind of like we're talking about Ubisoft. It's like you need the other ones to kind of fill up time in this space, and that's kind of where we are. So, and then I am replaying God of War Ragnarok. This is my second time going through this game. The first time I went through it on PS5, and then obviously because it came with both versions, you can get double trophies. And I didn't do the thing that I saw a lot of trophy hunters do, that their first playthrough they did it on PS4 to kind of double pop the trophy whenever they put the save on PS5. Because I was like, at the time I was like, I want to experience this thing when like at its highest fidelity. And so I thought. So I was like, I'll play the PS5 version. So it's like, I'm not gonna give myself with like the lesser version. And I'm playing through a PS4 version, and I'm like, am I crazy? I had the PS5 version installed, and I started going through both. I'm like, these are really similar. The only difference with the PS5 version is that you can run it at 120 frame mode if you have the TV. I don't. So it's like, okay, cool. At least now that I'm playing through the PS4 version, it's not like I am playing a GIMP version. I'm just playing a version that the loading is like slightly slower because it's the PS5 versions tend to like be more like lightning quick with their loading. But I'm like, I'm going through that. And God of War Ragnarok's interesting because God of War 2018, for a long time I called it my favorite modern game of all time, specifically because it's the game that got me out of a slump back in 2018. 2017 and 2018 was rough for gaming for me because it was like no game was hitting. Life was kind of like hitting me with a bunch of rough stuff, and every time that I kind of wanted to retreat into gaming, it was not doing it. It was like live service was just kind of growing and growing around that time. Every game felt like it was just going to be an open world. Zelda had just come out, and I had enjoyed Zelda and all about it. I'm also of the opinion that Breath of the Wild is like the most massively overrated game of the last decade. I love Tears of the Kingdom, but Breath of the Wild is like the greatest 7 that ever exists. Yes, come at me, bros. When I saw the things that were being like praised, and yes, I did play Horizon Zero Dawn before Zelda and all that, but at that point, like with everything that came in my life, I completely forgot about that experience by having platinum it also around that. So it was like God of War 2018 really was the thing that when I played it, it was like it re-energized me. I found the themes of that game fairly resonant as kind of like looking back on your life and what your life was, and kind of like what life was at the time. Obviously, from a perspective of parenthood that I don't have, I'm not a father, but kind of like finding that like deeply resonant and finding a game that gave me everything that I love about the game. So I always kind of held that game in high regard. So obviously when Ragnarok was coming in 2022, I was like so hyped or like so excited to kind of see at the time the conclusion of that story. And obviously I played it, I beat it, I platinumed it, and the weird thing is that 2018 I played like 5 times. Ragnarok I never had a desire to replay. I called it my game of the year in 2022, and then I spent There's my dog. Then I spent literally every month of 2023 playing a bunch of stuff that I was like, I think I like this better. Like from Resident Evil, Jedi Survivor. I personally was enjoying more despite it being buggier. But I was like, why am I like having this thing where I'm enjoying other games than this one? And this was the sequel to what I call my favorite game ever. So it put me like such a conflict, and it started kind of like being like, is there something wrong? I was like, did I not really love this game? Like I said I did, that I gave it my game of the year, like the sequel, the follow-up that in many places is better than the 2018 game. So it was like, it put me through like a very wild like crisis of conscience with this game, because I kept playing, obviously 2023 historic year. I played a bunch of those games. That's when I started reviewing at Season Gaming also. So I was playing a bunch of stuff. So when all of this was happening, it was like, it started diminishing my opinion of like what God of War Ragnarok was, because I was also not in the mood to replay it. It wasn't until they released the Valhalla DLC at December that year, then I was like, Steve Esposito from SG, who did the Ragnarok review at SG, said he was not going to play it. So I was like, I'm going to use this as my opportunity to try to at least get back into the Ragnarok side of things, and I got to play through that DLC, and I absolutely adored that DLC. In fact, like especially for someone that loved the God of War series all the way from the PS2 era, and that DLC brought back so many elements directly from those. It was like, this felt like this was for me, and kind of reignited a little bit of like, oh no, this is still a great game, but I still had not replayed it. The PC version came out yesterday, so I was like, I'm not gonna buy the PC version because I don't have a PC. But I kind of want to reintegrate myself into kind of like a God of War disc, where I feel like if there's a time to kind of like reanalyze what this game is, it's now. So I was like, I'm going to get now the platinum. I'm going to try to do the PS4 version. I'm going to get the platinum and just see, kind of lurk what people that didn't play this on PS5 or PS4 2 years ago think, or what people think 2 years later. Because also, when I have to kind of say it, let's make it like this. Right now that I'm replaying God of War Ragnarok, let's do like a Facebook relationship status. Current relationship status, it's complicated, but I'm working through it. Because let's just say this year, what was my modern favorite game ever got supplanted by Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So I don't think of God of War 2018 that same way as I did. I always respect what it did for me 6 years ago. Okay, making me so reanalyzing it that way, and not having kind of like the eye glowy, kind of like go rose tinted glasses of what I thought about it and seeing it more. It's a game that I can say that it's objectively better in so many ways, and visuals and combat and all of that. But it absolutely suffers a lot of like what modern PlayStation is suffering right now, which is pacing, language, galling pacing, that it will hit you with excitement, but then a lot of in between that can feel pretty boring and very mechanical in a way that now that I'm replaying a bunch of places, I'm like, gosh, it's like this is rough to replay. There's like an extended section in that game. You just called the Iron Woods. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, I'm gonna save you that until you eventually get there.
Yeah, thank you.
I didn't mind the first time I played it because there was cool story relations that happened. Now knowing what the story is and playing through that, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is unbearable. It's like there's this amazing meme of Giancarlo Esposito that it's like has the where he's like smiling and he puts the like the angry face. Eventually, he's like, me excited to replay said game, and then the angry face. That part, this game has that. I felt the same way with Spider-Man 2 from last year. Where I'm like, I'm excited to kind of replay this, and now I'm like, now I'm riding bikes. I had to go through this stupid school section. It's like, you know, those parts that are like, why are these here? These parts had nothing. You could excise them, and the game wouldn't lose anything. And I feel like it's funny seeing now. Now I'm seeing that from Ragnarok. That especially now I'm feeling more in like second replay. That I'm like, yeah, it's like I can accept the things that it does better, but it's like it's funny like, because I usually compare this to Final Fantasy 16. You ever play that one, Don?
16? Yeah, I played 16.
Yeah, so I feel Ragnarok is similar in that I feel like 16 has amazing emotional highs and euphoric spectacle, but has a lot of boring in between. Yeah. I feel Ragnarok has that. It's just that the spectacle and the highs of 16 are significantly higher. Yeah, literally and figuratively. It's like you fight mountains and go to space in that game in this high moment. It's like it's just unbeatable in that. That at least is like when you experience that, like if you are feeling iffy about like why am I like fetching sand or going through like this boring towns in between the exciting parts, those exciting parts were like payoff. Ragnarok has spectacle, but it's not in that level, but it's more fun to play moment to moment. So it's like
and the other thing to think about from what you're saying, because I haven't played Ragnarok for the audience, but from what you're saying, that's not optional. All of that side stuff, that picking up sand and all that, those are all the side quests in 16. You can go from start to finish in 16. I did 16 in about, I think it took me like 80 hours to do 16. I didn't get the platinum in it because I don't do time trials. I hate time trials. So I was like, nope, not worth it.
Yeah, those are rough.
Yeah, so I was like, no, I'm not going to bother with the platinum here. But I did all the side content because I wanted to. And the side content is what you're talking about, the picking up sand and the running back and forth. And it doesn't sound like that is how Ragnarok's is. It sounds like Ragnarok, you have to do all that stuff, and that
you literally have to ride like a jack and pick fruit in this section that I mentioned. That's all I have to say. I was like, I've been like ranting to my friends, like, dude, it's that meme is so true with this game. But then, like, when you're done with that part, the pacing ratchets up so insanely fast. Afterwards, it gets so immediately exciting, and references to old games happen. And it's like, it's like, again, it's like they had to know how to edit. They had to know to understand that these sections are like, how do you know a game is an old timer if you kind of want to, like, I have this thing like media that I absolutely love that I know it's old timer is something that I always want to experience over and over and over again. At least that's kind of how my mind works. That I know some people are okay with just experiencing it once and that's it. And I feel that's where a lot of the praise of a lot of these recent Sony games kind of come through that are much longer, because it's like a lot of them are long, but maybe that initial experience is so good and you don't want to taint it by going it again. And to me, like, I love re-experiencing something that I really love. And then when I see it, that I was like, did I actually love it, or was just kind of like that first experience? It's just an interesting like mind game that I play.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because so I almost never replay games. I don't have any interest in replaying games, but to your point, the games that I have replayed the most: Dragon Age Origins, Kingdom Hearts 2, Kingdom Hearts 1, Dragon Age 2, Dragon Age Inquisition, Assassin's Creed 2. These are all, I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn. These are all games that are in my top 10, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. These are all the games that are top 10 or so for me. And I don't really replay games. Like the most I've ever replayed any game is Kingdom Hearts 1, and I had played it 4 times.
For the Platinum 4 times. For the Platinum
I never played it on the PS4. I played it on the PS2 and the PS3. And I did do the trophy of like don't have any continues or whatever it was. Like, I'm good at Kingdom Hearts. I do Kingdom Hearts on critical or proud or whatever. Like, I'm good at Kingdom Hearts. I try at that. At least I was when I was younger. I haven't really tried them in a long time. But the point is, like, I agree with you actually, because there are a lot of people who replay games all the time, always replaying games. I'm like, I don't want to do that. To me, it loses a lot when I've gone through the story, because I am a story first kind of gamer, and it doesn't matter how good the gameplay is, I need to be super invested in the story to want to play it again. So when you have a game like Kingdom Hearts, where I'm just crazy invested in that story, as ridiculous as it gets, or in the alternative, a game like Dragon Age, where you can have different endings and different choices and dialogue and all of that,
yeah,
and the
value
general
is
story
insane.
is just so good. You know, that's when I replay it. But yeah, I don't usually replay games, and I never thought of it the way that you phrased it right now, is that if it's an all-timer, that's why Final Fantasy VII Remake is a game that I played through twice, because I loved it. I did the hard mode playthrough because I was like, that was fantastic. And Rebirth is a game that I really enjoyed. I really loved Rebirth, but I think we've talked about this, that I think Rebirth is just a little bit less than Remake for me, at least at the moment. So I haven't had that desire to go through all of it again. It's also huge.
Yes, that also helps. Like the grander a game is, obviously harder to play too. So
yeah, but like I have like Dragon Age Inquisition, which is a huge game if you 100% it. I have 100%ed that game twice. Yeah. For no reason other than I was just watching a friend of mine stream it on Twitch, and I was inspired to play it again in 2020 when it was COVID and you couldn't do anything or go anywhere. And I just was like, gonna make a new character, gonna go start to finish, I'm gonna do it all. I'm gonna collect every freaking shard that there is in that game, and I'm gonna open that stupid temple that has no purpose, and we're gonna do it. And I did it.
Yeah, I'm gonna 100%. Yeah, I got 100% the hinterlands at the very beginning again, because why not?
Absolutely. I also use that opportunity to go and clean up the trophies, the challenge mode trophies that I didn't have from they released like 10 separate special trophies with like modifiers that you could toggle on and off. It's so funny that they specifically disclaim that it might break your game if you turn them on, but they still attach trophies to it. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah, but I hate that.
It was stupid, but I think it's the biggest gap, or one of the biggest gaps in my trophy lists right now, is between this trophy that was the platinum trophy in 2014 and then 2020, like clearing it up in 2020 is like that 6-year gap of cleaning those other trophies. There may be one that's a little bit bigger, but yeah.
No, I get it, and that's what's funny. I feel like everyone can have like their own kind of their own criteria, like what makes a game a GOAT in a way. And to me that a game that I absolutely love, that I don't mind like replaying over and over. The fact here, I replayed Rebirth 3 times this year. I didn't need to. I only needed to replay twice for the platinum. I did another playthrough just as before I go through the nightmare of the hard mode. I kind of want to go through this again because I played that for review, and I kind of want to know if I still loved it. And that's when I knew that I still did. And then I went through that. Through that trophy gauntlet that I made a joke last week when I mentioned that I platinumed that. If I meet whoever designed the Chatley Legendary Brutal challenges, if I have a gun, we're gonna have a talk. because they're really tough. You have this video of the final one.
Part of the problem right now is just there's so many games to play, and I mean, I have played a fair number of games this year overall, but like I haven't played every game that's come out, and I have games that I've never even touched. I hope Ains doesn't listen because he'll kill me, but I've never touched Elden Ring. I own Elden Ring and I've never touched it. It's literally sitting like right over there to my side. I've never touched it.
Yeah, and don't feel bad. Like, look, that game has been praised everywhere. It deserves to have people that don't think it's the greatest thing in the world. And the thing is that I respect it more than being in that same camp that adores it like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Amazing open world and all that, but you have to be like in a very specific mind for it. And there's gonna be people that are just not that well. Yeah,
just too many games. You know, the upcoming. We were talking a lot. Assassin's Creed comes out in just 2 months. You know.
Yeah, I'm all over that baby. I'm gonna
Japanese Assassin's Creed, the Japan set Assassin's Creed, the game that everyone has wanted for 20 years, almost. You know, whatever. You know, 16 years, 17 years, however long it's been since the first game came out. Like. Yeah, I'm gonna be playing that. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna go and play the other games. There's just too many. There's just too many things to play.
We're so spoiled for choice, and that's the beauty of it. It's like it's like, especially for this year. It's like even though I had this argument with my buddy Sebastian about like what he feels about this year, and to me it's like this year has been an embarrassment of riches for like my particular taste. That I feel like I have not been starving at all, and then he follows a lot. He follows the opinion of reviewers and critics to the T, so the kind of funnies and all of that. So it's like he definitely based it. And I'm like, that is just not the reality. It's like saying that this year, like it's like a nothing year or something like that. It's just completely ignoring the amazing buffet of games that you have. And I always say, you want to know what a dry year is? Go back to 2021 and 2022. Yes, 2022 had Elden Ring. Yes, 2022 had God of War Ragnarok. When did those games come out? One in February and one in November. What happened in between? Almost nothing. So it's like, we gotta like talk about like when people say this is a dry year, I'm like, you're crazy. It's like, you better reframe it as there's a bunch of games that don't speak to me. That is a valid opinion because everyone has their taste. Like that's something that I respect. But just blanket saying that there's nothing, I'm like, there's nothing for you because that's
sure really the trick is nothing for you, because like I don't really play indie games, and I don't like pixel art or sprite-based games. I think those are god awful ugly. I know that some people would consider that blasphemous, but I don't want to see a game that is flat like that does nothing for me. So, and I'm not really a Metroidvania fan, so like there's so many of those that come out.
A lot of those.
But even still, there's a lot of great games. I noticed you left off Horizon Forbidden West in your 2022 list. Horizon Forbidden West came out in there,
but also it kind of happened the same week as Elden Ring got buried. But it happened there. But
it was I feel like we haven't really had a drought of games because there are so many games that there's no way that everyone who complains about how few games there are have finished all of the other games. They may have played them, you may have tried them, but you have not finished those games.
Exactly.
And so you just go back and play them. If there was some time where there were no games or something around, a couple months where there were no releases, like a summer. Summer is a good example this year where it was a little dry in terms of specific releases. That's okay. I got to go and I made more progress in the Yakuza series and got Lost Judgment done. Like, that's okay. You have these backlog games that you can play. It's okay to play your backlog, people, and it's okay to not play your backlog, but there's always something out there to play.
And 2022 was that for me for my backlog. I went through my backlog so hard in 2022, and in 2024, from the Alan Wake DLC to the Elden Ring DLC, the Kunitsugami and all of that, like I was like, man, I'm still feel like I'm still playing new stuff here in the summer. So I was like, I'm one that will combat the idea that this is a dry year for gaming, but I'm all for everyone like being like in a very elaborate way say the games that have shown up have just not been for me, and that's okay. Not everyone. The same way how I'm like, I support you saying that you don't care for Elden Ring. It's like that's okay. I didn't care about Dark Souls.
I can't say I don't care for it. I never played it. I never even touched it. It's something I'm like, oh, that would be cool. I bought it. I made sure. I mean, I bought it used because I refused to contribute to their ridiculous sales numbers. But I own a copy of it nonetheless.
It's still like broke sales record regardless. But it's like that's been like my experience kind of like with Ragnarok, in that kind of like that replay where it's like in a different context of where I felt about like its previous game before to getting it now in the second playthrough. It's like I'm noticing more of the flaws now than I was. But right now, before we start recording, I was in a pretty exciting part. And I was like, yes, like these are some of the things that I remember that were great. I remember why I said this was like my favorite that year in particular. But that's always kind of like the fear that sometimes that you cannot recreate that first playthrough. And sometimes the games that really are able to kind of really be magical that you want to experience over and over again, I feel that says a lot about their staying power. And it's a good thing that I was able to kind of like trigger something that made you feel like, what are games that I actually play a lot, and there's just something to it sometimes.
There is just something to it, and I know there are, like I said before, there are people who play replay games all the time, whether they love them or not, and I'm not one of them, but it is a good indicator of, do I have that urge to play this game again, how much I love it. And I can't wait for you mentioned Horizon Forbidden West, a game that I also played on Platinum back in 2022. In fact, before I fully dove into Elden Ring, I said to myself, I'm not gonna leave Horizon behind. I'm gonna finish. In fact, that was Horizon was my most anticipated game going into 2022, and I was also was not expecting Elden Ring to be as huge as it would be, especially with my conventional wisdom. Like, these games are too hard. They're a little bit more niche. I know they're getting a little bit more popular. Sekiro had just won Game of the Year. Like the last time From Software in 2019. The last time they had a game like released in a calendar year. So it's like, I'm not like disputing it, but I was like, I feel like if there's gonna be enough difference that Horizon this time will be fine. There's no Zelda. Little did I know that it would get buried like so hard, like in a mountain, especially for a sequel that at the moment I was like, yes, this is like, I'm feeling the improvements. It's like, I always looked at it as like Forbidden West was gonna be that Assassin's Creed 2 to Assassin's Creed 1. Like,
a really great, solid foundation that has a lot of upswing for like a sequel. And I was like hoping for that. And then the story did not stick with me after I beat it. Like, I was like, man, I forgot. Like, I know there's like some alien people. I know there's like Carrie-Ann Moss Trinity in it. She's like the final boss. I remember it. I remember going through Las Vegas. That then, like when you illuminate it, like looks so cool at night and all that. But it's like it's a game that really like the story didn't really stick with me, even more so than Horizon Zero Dawn. That at least did stick. Like very big parts of it really stuck with me.
Yeah, well, Horizon Zero Dawn has the mystery element to it. I mean, there's some mystery in in Forbidden West as well, but there's the huge mystery in Zero Dawn of just like what happened, and I wouldn't even want to spoil for people now. Because the game is, maybe
it's really cool. Like when you're in for like that game sets a mystery and solves it, and how it solves it is like such a really cool way.
And for those who haven't played it, wink, wink, maybe playing it soon.
I know.
In a little prettier version, maybe. But honestly, I think that Zero Dawn. I understand the comparison between Zero Dawn and Assassin's Creed 1 to Forbidden West and Assassin's Creed 2, but I think that almost does Zero Dawn a disservice because Zero Dawn is really phenomenal. It really is a phenomenal game. And I love Forbidden West's story and all of it as well. I do place it a little bit above Zero Dawn because of it does feel better. And I do think the mystery and the story does progress, and I like the ginormous nature of it. But they're fantastic games. They really are.
Yeah, I feel like and the things that I've been like looking again, like because I love replaying and because I love reanalyzing just to make sure I know how I feel about games. Because my thing with Ragnarok, one reason why I was like wanting to replay it so well, because as soon as I finished it, I said this game of the year and all that, I joined Season Gaming. And what did I come in when I joined Season Gaming? Almost everyone like talking shit about it. So I was like, am I crazy? Like what the heck? And then like when me not being able to replay it, getting to hear like those opinions, like hearing Ho or Ains or like Dan and Lowe's, like me that I listen to Bitcast, how they will refer to the game, you start believing it. Especially because then it's like, look, I'm not replaying it, so it's like, are they right? Because it's like I cannot go and like provide the counter argument at this point because I'm not feeling compelled to replay and kind of like remember why I loved it in the first place. So I kind of want to do that with Forbidden West, and the thing is that now that we know something, it's gonna be like maybe I'll save it for like a back-to-back and do them both that way. But before we get into that,
that's a hefty task. That would be a long time.
Look, I did 335 hours of Rebirth in like a small time. I can make that.
Fair.
Thankfully, I'm not as busy as many people like with what I do. But before we get into that, it's time to talk about a few topics, Don. And a few of these, like, thankfully align with some of the things that you like and you and I like. So first, we got to talk about Like a Dragon Pirate. What was it called?
Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
Those names are so hilarious. Ever since the man who lost his name.
Their names. They are amazing. Like Infinite Wealth, whatever. That's a fine title. But I mean, tell me I'm wrong when I say that Like a Dragon. Sorry, in America it would be Yakuza 6. The Song of Life is not the greatest title of all time. Like that is a GOAT title. And then they follow it up a couple years later with Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. That is also a GOAT title. Like, come on. They're so good at naming these games. Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. That's incredible. That is an awesome name.
Yeah, so we knew that they were gonna announce something Like a Dragon. It was literally gonna be today from where we're recording, if I'm not mistaken. And because I know you were gonna is it live now, the Yakuza piece?
It's not live yet because I need to put some images in it. But
but it's gonna come in. Like you wrote a piece about like the journey of platinuming the Yakuza series, right? Like
so the title of my article is Yakuza trophies suck, but I love them anyway. And it just explores my journey through just playing Yakuza games and not caring about the trophies to starting to not only get the platinum in games as I play them, but go back to the old ones now that are annoying and get the platinums in those too. And it's about my own personal journey, just slightly, where I started in games and why I care about trophies, or why I didn't care about trophies and then started to care more about trophies as time went on. But yeah, so that's not live just yet. It'll be on Season Gaming. Once it is, I need to add some images to represent some of the things I was talking about in there. But it's written. It is all written and edited.
Yeah, it's been written for a while, I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wrote it because I was working on Yakuza Zero's Platinum about a month ago now, I guess, and that's what
Wow.
inspired me to write the article
Yeah.
on there, and
Wait,
so it's been done and edited, and I'll hopefully get that live in the next couple
yeah. I
days.
want like when you told me that you were writing something about the story, I kind of wanted to do something about it because I was going through the Reaver Platinum, and kind of
Mm,
like that Platinum was so all consuming for me that I was
yeah,
like I literally couldn't concentrate to play other games because I really wanted it because like I'm like so close. I feel I can get it. I feel I can get it, and I kind of wanted to
yeah.
do like an article like talking about kind of that experience and how that could enhance or ruin game, or just kind of like my thought process. Really hearing that because I thought it would have been a fun one, and then I just kind of got lost because I moved on to other stuff when I finished quickly
Yeah.
the platinum.
But I mean, your position is right. It can enhance or ruin games. You know, sitting playing mini games that are RNG based and just totally luck based.
Mm-hmm.
That can suck. That can be not fun. But
Mm-hmm.
when you look at the rest of what you get out of it and the time you spend and the way you get to know the world, you know,
Or the catharsis of beating something so incredibly
yeah,
hard.
or annoying. It's, you know, that
Yeah.
relief of just being something that's annoying. And it's funny because my girlfriend, you know, she sits and watches me play sometimes when she's working on things, and I'll just be doing it over and over, and she's just like, why are you doing it? And I'm like, because yeah, I like to. I like doing it. I like the result. I like how it feels to get things done. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah,
It's
so I can't wait to read that article that you wrote about the journey in the platinum of Yakuza.
yeah,
Like,
it's not that long. It's just a couple pages, so
mm-hmm.
it'll be a quick read
Yes.
for anyone who just is curious. And there are a lot of people who don't understand the trophy mindset, and so I hope that it can try to
Mm-hmm.
explain the trophy mindset to not. I'm not trying to convert people into loving trophies, but at least
Mm-hmm.
explain what you feel. Now, I have to say, it didn't work for my girlfriend when she read it, but you know, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. So in lieu of that, you because you're so entrenched in Yakuza, thanks to your platinum journeys. Like, what's your hype level for this pirate game with Majima?
uh, Hype level is personally very low, and the
Okay.
reason for that is I won't play it for like another 2 years.
Then you still have a lot of games ahead of you, right?
I still, so I do between 1 and 2 Yakuza series games in a year because they're so in depth and they're so heavy and there's so much to them that I don't want to take up my whole life doing it. So I just did Lost Judgment in June, and then in December, January I did Judgment. So the next time I play a Yakuza game is going to be Like a Dragon Guide and the Men Who Erased His Name,
Mm-hmm.
upcoming probably in December or January again, and then I'll finally get to Infinite Wealth in June. I do it at about a 6 month
Okay.
cadence.
Oh,
It's
so you have not played Infinite Wealth at all?
nope,
Not yet. So
not at all.
I bought it because of the hype that that game got, and then
Yeah,
so many people were like, before you really started, get through normal Like a Dragon, because I was like,
yeah, for sure. Oh yeah,
I have never really played a Yakuza game, and there's just so many of those, or at least I played briefly a few of them, and there's so many of those, and I tried on the one they gave me a few on PS Plus.
mm-hmm.
And when the series kind of came to Game Pass because almost everything is there, so I kind of
Yeah.
doubt. But then when you see how many of them there are, and then I looked at okay, let me look at how long to beat. I was like, oh no,
It's really it's an odyssey, and I
Mhm,
don't use that word lightly. It is an odyssey. The odyssey
mhm.
is a long journey. It is a long journey to go through. I've
Yeah,
been playing Yakuza games since
22.
2017.
Oh no, there you go. It's in zero. Mhm,
2017, I've been playing Yakuza games. When Yakuza 0 came out, I picked up 0, and I picked up Kiwami,
mhm.
and I went and I dove into 0, and I tried 0, and I was like, that was great. It was like 50 hours or whatever I put into it or something like that, and it was wonderful, and I loved it, and I was like, I'm good. Yes, we'll move on to the next game. This is before I started the platinum journey, but I was like, that was really good. I'm gonna move on, but I need a break. And I waited a whole year. I didn't play Kiwami until 2018. And so
Mhm.
for a while it was one a year, one a year, one a year. And then I got into the remastered trilogy of 3, 4, and 5, and I did 3, and 3 is like the worst of the
Mhm.
modern games, as everyone knows at the moment. Um, and it could really use a Kiwami remake. But I got to 4, and I did 4 in a summer, or sorry, in a winter time frame. I did it in January because that was when I had been playing them. And I
Mhm.
thought, you know what? Let me get 5 done this year. I will break my habit, my tradition, and I will do 2 this year, and I'll do it in June instead. And so I did it in June, and then I went the following year into 6 for December, and then 7, and then in the June of that year, and then I finally was like, oh, time to do the judgments, and so then Judgment was this past year in December,
So
January.
many.
Now, yeah, there's so many. There are so many games, but I've been doing this for so long because there's so many, and they release them at such a quick cadence that it's like I feel like I'm never gonna catch up because I knew I would never catch up if I did one a year. So I finally said I have to do these two if I ever want to catch up and play these when they come out.
Yeah, and that's kind of like that's kind of like the impasse that I'm in, because I know that a lot of people are really championing Infinite Wealth here, especially because that was, it was an interesting discourse seeing like a lot of people trying to compare Infinite Wealth with Rebirth this year, and like they kept saying that it was better than Rebirth, and then the Rebirth people being like, no, it's the opposite and all that.
It's just different.
Yeah,
I can't imagine either one of them is better than the other. They're just totally different games. They're just, I mean, Infinite Wealth is a turn-based JRPG. Like it's not going to feel like playing Rebirth at all. Yeah, you ride a dolphin and a Segway in both of them, but like you're not gonna.
Exactly. It just so happened that they were just massive, like this JRPGs with like massive stuff to do that just happened to release a month apart from each other. So I kind of wanted to do that. You know, I tend to get ahead of myself, and I hear that there's hype of something. I tend to just jump in against my better judgment, and then I started playing Infinite Wealth, and I was like, I don't know who the curly guy that I know was in the cover of this. So I was like, I feel like I'm gonna do it a massive disservice if I at least don't know, get into the base. And then I had just do Infinite Wealth, just do Like a Dragon normal, and then jump to this one, because I think that was kind of like an intent why they changed out so hard with Like a Dragon to kind of give a new start.
For sure.
But then
it is. It's a fresh start. It's a fresh character playing as Ichiban and whatnot like that. Yeah, you could just do that if you wanted to. But I will have to say you are missing out on
the Kiryu stuff.
Right, everything related to Kiryu, and I love Kiryu. Kiryu is fantastic. He's one of the best characters, and you know, and then Kuroda, the voice actor, is so talented in everything that he does with his voice, and he's just all over the place, and it is just a genuinely good time to play. Even the janky Yakuza 3, which is I want to say lovingly but not lovingly known as Blockuza, because the enemies are just blocking the whole time you're fighting. Even that is still, you get so invested in the characters, and that there are some that carry over from start to the end, and
that's what I saw from Gene Park, that said that in Infinite World he saw a lot of payoff from things going all the way back to from not just 0 but also 1. So it's like me, that I love me some payoff. Then I was like, oh man, I really would like to give this franchise that went from the tiniest niche to something that is like now has a thing that now that they announced this pirate game was like seen as a big deal. A lot of people.
I was just gonna say, to get to your original question, my hype level, my actual excitement for like what this game is gonna be it's off the charts. I know it's gonna be ridiculous. Like everything in this franchise is in the best way. Like. And you don't know anything about Majima, but Goro Majima, the main character of this game, he is hilarious.
Yeah, I know he's voiced by Matt Mercer in the English version. That's the only thing that I know of Majima. So.
Yeah, he's so funny, and he is crazy. And if you ever just are curious about like a baseline of Majima, just look up the opening of the 3rd chapter in Yakuza 0. It's a long cutscene. Just watch the 3rd chapter of Yakuza 0 opening cutscene, and it's Majima focused, and you'll just be like, oh, okay, I get it. I love this guy. And that's just him. I mean, he's just that kind of ridiculous person, and his character is pretty samey throughout the whole series. He doesn't really have character shifts and tone shifts. He's just crazy. He's just out of his mind a lot of the time, and it's great. Yeah,
me, that I'm more of an action RPG guy. Obviously, like you mentioned Kingdom Hearts. I love Kingdom Hearts. Obviously, I've mentioned I love Remake and Reaver, like something where I'm constantly like pressing buttons. Like I got to see some of the combat of this like pirate game that is like he can even air juggle and hit and all that, and I was like, I know I'm not even anywhere close to be like invested in the series or like to know it in that way. That combat looks so sick. Could this be one that I just jumped in without not knowing? Especially knowing that this is like 6, and then I was like reading, it's like, this is set at 6 months before Infinite World. So I was like, okay, it's technically before. I still haven't started Infinite World.
Is it before? I thought it was after. I thought it was 6 months after.
At least what I saw was before. I could be wrong. I could like check, but yeah, it's like the way how they were framing it is like, could this be like maybe a random jumping off point? But then I know a lot of people are like, so it can be so cute by 2 with how you say I want to get into that, and I was like, okay, start here. So it's like I want to because I love being part of so many like series,
Yeah.
like getting it. So
It was funny. A couple months back, Will Judd of Digital Foundry, he's like he's one of their tech analysts and whatnot. He does their Digital Foundry deals. He and I chatted a little bit. He helped me like build my computer, pick my parts and whatnot last year. But he posted this thing on Twitter and he was asking, he's like, Infinite Wealth looks really good. Where should I start with this? And I went through the list and explained, I was like, and that's it. And his response was just like, yep, that's right. It makes perfect sense to just tell someone to go and play 9 games to get into one. I was like, I mean, you know, yeah.
And it makes me wonder, it's like, Infinite Wealth was the best selling. I wonder how many people actually jump into this one because it reviewed so highly too, without not knowing.
You know what? That's the thing. You'll get way more payoff from these games if you start from 0. You'll get more payoff than if you just start at 8 by starting at 7 like a dragon. Yakuza Like a Dragon. But even if you started at Infinite Wealth and not having played Infinite Wealth, I can tell you that you would still love it because these games don't miss. They don't miss at this point. What they do is they take what they know works and they iterate and they iterate. And sometimes they're a little off the mark of what would be the best way to go about something, but they don't miss the dartboard entirely. And I say that because there is an excellent darts minigame in all of these games. Like they know what to do and they know how to properly reuse the assets. I have not known a map of a game the way that I know Kamurocho or Isekai Jinsho since Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. I knew the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas Los Santos map like the back of my hand when I was a kid. I could get to Grove Street, I could find it, I could pinpoint it right on the map and know exactly where it was and how to get there. That's how I know Kamurocho and how I know Ijincho. Like they are so good at that sort of thing. And it's funny to see them change things and things are a little bit weirder and they remove stores and they add stores and whatnot, but the general layout is the same and you get to know it and it becomes like a home, you know, going from Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is primarily set in Ijincho for most of the game, back into Judgment, which is set in Kamurocho, was like, I feel like I'm home. And then I went back into Lost Judgment, which is primarily set in Ijincho, and I'm like, oh, I'm like home again, because you're so welcome in these worlds. And you feel so good playing these games and experiencing them.
That's actually
even if you played 8, you would love Infinite Wealth. Even if you played it without any context, you would still love it because they are good at what they do and they make good games, even without the payoff.
Yeah. I made a thing that I was going to say, like, one of the things that I actually love, going back to Ragnarok, one of the things I love what it does is that it reuses a lot of the same maps, but with different set dressing because of the passage of time. And if you play the original, going back to that kind of like works.
Yeah.
And I have heard that Yakuza is the king at like nailing that kind of feeling, going back home. That. And
they are the king of reusing animations, of using fighting moves, and then totally having them removed in like 3 games and then just throwing them back in later on. I have to shout out a YouTube channel called the Snowiest Angaman, ANGEMAN, Snowiest Angaman, and he is this Australian Yakuza YouTuber, and his channel is so good, and he's so thorough in his analysis of certain things. Like he has videos of like 17 moves that were in Yakuza 0 that are not in any other game, and a full retrospective series going from 0 all the way through Lost Judgment, including the PSP spin-off games and the Japanese only. Like his channel is great. And so if you want to just like get a feeling for what this game franchise is like without actually playing them, check out that channel and see some of his videos, because it really, like, I watch them when I'm not playing Yakuza games. I go and watch videos from his channel because I kind of wish I was playing a Yakuza game.
Yeah, so right now, Infinite Wealth
looks great.
Yeah, so Infinite Wealth and Rise of the Ronin and Unicorn Overlord are like my 3 games that I'm like, okay, I haven't beaten this. If somehow a dry spell happens from here until like December, I'm gonna get through at least one of those. And specifically, if Infinite Wealth like makes the 6 nominated for Game of the Year, like if it makes it, I'm gonna make it a priority just to kind of like be like, I want to have a say just in case it wins something, and at least I know if it's worth it winning. So I tend to at least see that. To play what I think is gonna be like nominated, because it at least gives an idea. Yeah. So that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna wait to hear see more of this pirate game, that it's combat with the air juggles and all of that. it's making me it's making me mighty tempted because like
do it,
it's so wild.
do it, Alex, do it.
I got until February.
one of the things so I'll close out the topic for us on is that I love this franchise so much. At least a half dozen times I have just bought copies of Yakuza 0 and given it to people, like friends of mine. I'll just be like, here's
You're
a code
an evangelist.
Here's the money. Yeah, I am an evangelist for sure. A friend of mine in Canada, I bought her a Canadian dollar PlayStation Store gift card so that she could buy the game, and she went and bought it. Like that's how much I love this game and how much I evangelize for the Yakuza.
And I know Zero made the greatest hits that always is sold like for $20, so easy way for anyone to start it. I have installed Zero.
They're so easy.
Yes.
They're so easy to get. They're on sale all the time. You can get Zero Kiwami and Kiwami 2 for like $15 all together on PSN very easily. You can get them on the remastered trilogy for like $15 or $20. Yeah, they sell for cheap all the time. They're well worth it though.
Sweet. So moving on now to something that is of massive interest for you. Also, your probably most anticipated game for the rest of this year. Releasing
it's been my most anticipated game for the last 10 years.
That's rough to think about. That has been a decade for you to get another one of these. So Dragon Age, the Veilguard finally had like a preview embargo kind of lift for people that got to check the game. I think last week they got to check and I played for like 6-7 hours.
A couple weeks ago. It's a couple weeks. They did it early September.
Oh, okay. So, it was already September 20th. So we're already halfway through September.
Yeah.
When I really think about it. So, it was before the LSM event they did in San Diego because Mr. Matty Plays went there before he went to the event. So it makes sense. Early September. So, few words said in the preview without spoilers. This may be BioWare's new Mass Effect 2 moment. Someone said that it reminded
Eurogamer.
Yes, someone said they reminded them of Final Fantasy VII remakes, like a sense of place and how you move through the areas. That was the Kotaku preview. And Mr. Greg Miller from Kinda Funny mentioned that if the game stayed like to the quality of the 6-7 hours he played, he called that probably his game of the year. So after a decade-long torturous wait, Don, where you had to see Mass Effect Andromeda kind of like crash and burn and put that series on ice for a little bit. The Anthem live service disaster of 2019. Hearing that this game was a live service and then they got removed and it was a multiplayer game, not a live service, that then went back to like a single-player game that then was gonna use God of War 2018 combat, like over-the-shoulder combat inspiration for it, and it been perpetually like shown at Jeff Keighley's Game Awards since 2018 and re-shown again in 2020 alongside the new Mass Effect. Now we're here. We're like 2 months away. You have state spoiler free from the story.
We are less than 2 months. It is October 31st. We are like 40 some odd days.
We're in the 40. We're like in 42, 43 days from when we're recording. Because this is right now. That's gonna be Halloween game. That's a Halloween game. So it's like that. Now, hype level for this one compared to to Pirate Like a Dragon.
This hype level is I'm dead and buried in a coffin because it killed me because I'm so excited for this game. No, like seriously, Dragon Age is my favorite franchise of all time. For a really long time, Kingdom Hearts was my favorite franchise, and they're still neck and neck a lot of the time, and I go back and forth. But Kingdom Hearts 3 had some weirdness to it that I really loved, but it
didn't stick.
It felt slimmed back. It felt like they cut back. Like there were so many parts of it that I thought we were going on this epic journey to rescue Aqua and then go all like it just felt like they spent so much time iterating and figuring out, and then they just couldn't actually put the content in there. But it was still a great game.
They rushed all the important stuff in the back third of that game. And the first 2/3 was still let's go through the movies. Again. So
that's exactly right. And so with that in the background, Dragon Age really just like ekes ahead of it at the moment. And I love Origins. I love 2. I love Inquisition. I recognize they have problems in each of those games to some extent. 2 being made in like 15 months or 16 months or something like that is still it's a marvel that they did that so much.
Insane how quickly they put that one out.
Yeah, huge shout out to Mike Laidlaw and that whole team there. Mike is making Eternal Strands now with that one studio after he left BioWare. Really excited to see that. I met him before. He's a really nice guy. And Origins is so different from the rest of them because it's that classic CRPG, old school.
In the Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 style.
Yeah, right. Because a lot of people don't realize this, but Baldur's Gate and Dragon Age are connected in that Dragon Age was BioWare's spiritual successor to Baldur's Gate, specifically because they wanted to just own an IP. They were like, we like Baldur's Gate, but we want to own our thing, so now we're going to make our spiritual successor in Dragon Age. And that's, you know, so that's why they did what they did. And so their transitions, but it's so crazy to me that it's been that long since the last game came out. And I, you know, life is so different. You know, when I was in law school when Dragon Age Inquisition came out, and now I've been practicing law for half a decade or more.
I was in my junior year of college when Dragon Age was coming, so I still remember that. It's like it's so wild just to think like a decade long like passage of time, how different things are. Like the presidents that came and went, the pandemics that kind of ravaged us in between.
I know.
When you think about it.
Yeah, and so you think about the time that's passed, and that's crazy, but it's still exciting to me because I'm the kind of guy who has read all the comics and own like copies of the comics, and you know, I listened to a podcast specifically devoted to BioWare. You know, my first article for Season Gaming was analyzing the trailers of Dragon Age. You know,
because you hated that first trailer so much, right?
Because that trailer is so awful. That first trailer is so in line with everything that they have always done. And you know, my article was called "The Hilarious History of Horrible Dragon Age Trailers" because they're just awful, and it's perfectly in line. And I had that realization I had to write about it, and that's why I became a contributor to Season Gaming. And you know, Dragon Age is why I'm on this podcast. You know? It's like
I love it.
But I listen to BioWare podcasts specifically. You know, Split the Veil is the name. It's a great podcast on Codex Added, and
I'll say, like, if someone has a BioWare podcast, I salute them. I salute they're able to keep that going, considering like where BioWare has been this decade, which is like so wild to think about.
I know.
Just think about Inquisition. Game of the Year 2014.
Yeah.
I feel like nowadays, because of everything that happened to BioWare afterwards, like with Andromeda and Anthem, that when people list the decades to what were the what won Game of the Year in general in those years, and they see Dragon Age Inquisition listed, that's the one game that gets singled out and laughed at.
Always gets singled out. They always say, oh, well, that wasn't it was not a particularly strong year of games. I agree with your sentiment, but that does not make that game not a fantastic game. It just is. But you're right, yeah. Having a BioWare podcast in this age, you know, it's run by these two content creators, the Exalted March, Jordan, and Gilder Thalin, Katie. And Katie is a huge Dragon Age YouTuber on her own, and she was at the event as well, and she's incredible. She makes great content, and everything that they discuss is, you know, on their podcast is like, sometimes they have to reach because there's so little going on, and then they can finally get this game and this reveal, and you know, for me, I'm just like, what was that? Why did they do that? And then you know, 2 days later they have the gameplay trailer, and I'm like, okay, I feel a lot better now. And you know, with these impressions and everyone saying all these things, I'm like, I personally, I never lost faith in them, because I actually think Anthem was kind of fun to play. It wasn't great. It was not a great story, and it obviously should not have been anything like it was, but it was fun to play. It felt good, and Andromeda had a decent story. You know, it's not Mass Effect trilogy story, but it's a pretty good story still, and it was probably the best playing Mass Effect. BioWare never really lost its touch, I don't think. I think that they were strong-armed into situations that they didn't necessarily belong in, and I think you know, there's a lot of people who say that if BioWare wasn't BioWare, EA would have shut them down. I do believe that's true. I do think that if EA wouldn't like be rioted and boycotted by everyone on the planet for shutting BioWare, I do think that BioWare's past is really what's keeping them alive, and I have hope and faith in them for the future, because the team that's making the Veilguard, is a lot of new people, but it's not all new people. You know, game director Corinne Bush, she's new. She's been with BioWare for just 4 years since the project started. But John Epler
and Michael Gamble,
been there forever.
Yeah, and Gamble, even though he left BioWare, he's like consulting still from like what?
No. Mike Dara. Mark Dara. Mike Gamble is the Mass Effect lead. Mark Dara is the guy.
That was the one. It's like too many mics, and then
it's Mark and Mike. Mark and Mike. Yeah.
And the guy that's like doing the indie game that we mentioned earlier. That's the one that Travis like went to preview.
Right, that's Mike Laidlaw.
Mike Laidlaw. So
he's not involved. Mike Laidlaw is not involved in this one.
Yeah, that's so funny. So many mics like have had hands in this.
Yeah, Mike's and Marks. But so, you know, John Epler's been around forever, and Trick Weeks, like all these people have been, you know, on the game for a really long time. So even though it's not everyone from the past, it still has enough of that cross DNA that I really do think that BioWare's got something special here. And I haven't played it. I am minimizing my exposure to the release content because I don't want to be spoiled on story and things going on. But I am very happy to see people
excited
being turned around, having their opinions turned, because I know a lot of people were down on it, and I know a lot of people talk crap about BioWare, and it's nice to hear them not do that. And as a person who does love Mass Effect but who loves Dragon Age more, it's super nice to not have people talking about Mass Effect in the same breath as Dragon Age, because every single time anything Dragon Age comes up, they always say Dragon Age and Mass Effect, Dragon Age and Mass Effect. So like you said in that 2020 Game Awards thing, they did the Dragon Age thing and the Mass Effect thing. And it's like, why? Why are you doing that? Dragon Age sells better than Mass Effect. Dragon Age is a bigger franchise than Mass Effect.
Which is why it's wild to
12 million copies.
That's what's so wild to think about, because like in conversations, Mass Effect feels bigger, but the numbers say otherwise when you really...
They do, exactly. Right? But you know why that is? Do you know why that is, Alex?
It's D&D.
It's D&D, but it's also the audience. The audience of Dragon Age is vastly more full of women than it is men.
Makes sense.
And women are not as involved in the discourse online for games as men are. So all the men talking about the male fantasy of Shepard or even FemShep and all that, their space in Mass Effect, that's awesome, and I love Mass Effect. But the customizable character and the blank slate nature and all the romance and stuff, and I love the romance in the Dragon Age games, all that stuff, that is a huge draw to the women audience, and half of the Dragon Age content creators online are women, and that's incredible.
I've noticed.
They are the silent majority buying the games that make it the bestseller of BioWare, and that's awesome, because it's the best game. It's the better.
And it explains why they let a Dragon Age, this new Dragon Age, kind of like took this long, because there's like at least a good kind of like sales trajectory that if it remains true, despite like how long it's been. It's like it has that, and people like, whether people like it or not, or agree or not, it's like its last game was a Game of the Year winner. So at least it has that going. And to me, I just want this game to hit in a way that at least finally like washes away the stink of Andromeda and Anthem, regardless of but it's like it's things that are unfortunately there. And I actually like Andromeda more than most people did, and I also waited to play it because I also tried it at launch, and it was like And then the day after, they were like, "We're gonna patch it." I was like, "I'm gonna wait." And then a million things came out, and that.
I mean, they did patch it. The Andromeda of launch and the Andromeda of later.
Different.
I played it all through launch, but it took long enough to play through that I saw some of the changes. Like just like the first major patch they did, just stop making them look like their eyeballs were made of glass. Like that was.
Or like the weird like facial animations that they were doing also.
I think that they've really given and it was in an interview with I think it was Daniel Bloodworth talking to Corinne Bush and one of the producers that said that this version of Dragon Age has been in production for a little over 4 years.
Yeah, the 2020 one. Yeah, it makes sense because it's like when we got to see the gray box at the EA Play they did that year for the pandemic, where they had nothing to announce, but they were like, we had things in development. The same one that announced Escape was coming back, and it was announced in a Zoom call by the developers. So because I remember that's when I saw the combat. It was like, oh, it's that perspective. But gosh, is it just a gray box? Ooh. But then when you hear it has had so many restarts, from like 2014 to then, so it makes sense.
Yeah, because it had Joplin, which was supposed to be a smaller heist-based game into Winter, and then it was reset into Morrison, which was then a multiplayer game, and then Morrison became they kept Morrison as a baseline, but then they removed the multiplayer side of all of it, which was a good call. And like that's all of that is wonderful. And I have some disappointments. I don't like that it's only 3 party members. That makes me sad. I don't like that I don't get to control them. There are things that I actively don't like when I see what's going on in here. But as I said, I have the faith and the trust that they made the right call. And also, it's important to remember, if they do make another Dragon Age game, they're always different. They could go back and do something totally different again in a 5th Dragon Age game.
They're like weirdly like Final Fantasy.
Yeah, they can do whatever they wanted to, because Dragon Age is designed to be an anthology series. It's supposed to be a different protagonist. It's supposed to be a different style, a different location.
A different Inquisitor and all that. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Like Inquisitor's coming back in some role in here, because obviously if the mission is to stop Solus and the Elven Gods and all of that, like yeah, the Inquisitor is going to be around, and that's cool.
They already confirmed this is not going to use the Dragon Keep, right? The thing that you can go to a website to kind of create it.
That's correct. There is no Dragon Age Keep. The Dragon Age Keep still exists, so you don't have to like manually write down all of your choices, but they are having a system in the game when you start up that you can choose the most important choices that are going to impact the story and the setting. You can make those choices in the game itself, because the technology is too different between the Dragon Age Keep and this new game, which is unfortunate, because the Keep is really cool, but they're not getting rid of it, and all your choices are still there, which is, I think that's important, because I don't remember everything that I chose in those games, and I've chosen so many different options.
The Keep is still, it's buggy nowadays, but recently I reinstalled Inquisition on Xbox because I played it on PlayStation, but I heard that it had FPS boost on Xbox. So I was like, I would like to see this in FPS boost. And so I was like, I'm gonna try to use Dragon Keep and try to like think something. I was like, because here's the thing, I never beat Dragon Age, the original or 2. Inquisition was my first one. Because that was the first one I was able to buy at the time. They were not backwards compatible. We were so far ahead, but I was like, I'll at least do Inquisition. And I beat it. I liked it. I didn't love it like you did, but I enjoyed it. But it was like kind of like I was more Mass Effect guy, so I was more like the sci-fi dude. So Inquisition I got because it was like the next Bioware game after Mass Effect 3. He got all this praise. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna.
The best Mass Effect. Mass Effect 3 is the best Mass Effect. I know that's controversial. It is the best Mass Effect.
I love 2 better, but 3 is the second best. I think 1's the worst. Don't kill me, Ain't.
I love 1. I think they're all good, but 3 is definitely a head and shoulders above, because I love that story. I love that culmination of everything.
I feel like the tone is so amazing, and the tone and combat in 3 is so amazing. Like kind of like I feel no other game nails kind of like the feeling of kind of like those quiet moments in within war when you're trying to figure out what the heck you're gonna do for the combat. I feel it nails that kind of like war vibe when you're talking with Hackett in between like missions and calling in.
Absolutely.
I agree. Mass Effect 3 is a great game. I like 2 slightly better, but it's like 3 is excellent. Like,
but I'm excited to see the story in Dragon Age and how it goes and where they take it. And Mr. Matty did an interview with
I have to see it. I have to see it too.
He only did. I asked him about this on Twitter. He did a video of his impressions, and he's only using those snippets. He's not going to post the full interview.
Okay.
But he took snippets of it in his video, and one of the things that Corinne confirmed is that there are no DLC plans right now. This is a complete story being told. She said that one of the lessons from Inquisition was that the Trespasser DLC probably should have been a part of the main game because it's so important.
I was gonna ask, like, I've heard about that DLC that is like it's basically a linchpin for this game, right?
Oh yeah, if you haven't done it, you need to go and do that now. Like before you play Veilguard, you have to.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I haven't done it, so
it's 100% mandatory. Otherwise, nothing's gonna make sense. Like it will make no sense whatsoever for you as someone who's played Inquisition. You're like, wait, what? Just like, what's going on
just main game, not Trespassers. So. Yeah, it's kind of similar to the Mass Effect 2 Arrival DLC, leading directly into why.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, why Shepard was like in prison when you started Mass Effect 3. So yeah, I'm glad that they're learning. I'm glad that they're learning those things because it's so funny to think about that. And also, Mass Effect 3 notorious for putting so much important DLC. I mean, so much important story in the DLC with Leviathan and
Javik should never have been.
Day 1 DLC is like brutal.
Leviathan, I disagree. I think Leviathan is okay in DLC because that's background. That's like understanding stuff, and that's cool to learn. But it's not required to understand the like. the mystery of the Reapers is enough to get you from start to end of the game. Learning about their history is just cool. Like that's just bonus bits. Whereas the connection of Arrival into 3 or the connection of Trespasser into the Veilguard is mandatory. Like it doesn't make any sense without it.
And they never made it that loud to be like, hey, this is important, especially with how long it's been. Like Dragon Age has been dormant. That's a detail that could like get slipped by so many people. I'm trying to go back to.
Well, I do think that part of their goal with the Veilguard, because it's been so long, and one of the nice things with Dragon Age is that it's always a new character, is that this is welcoming new people in, because it opens up with this crazy big act. Like you don't need to know all of the background to be like, this monster is trying to tear down the veil. What do we do? Like we have to stop this. Like that's
like Inquisition that starts with the nuke. I freaking love, like, Inquisition has my favorite start screen of any game. The endless like army that's like marching, and then you start.
Yeah, the Templars and Mages meet.
Yeah, and then you just nukes, and there's like your character is like in the middle of all that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a good opening for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so excited for this game. I've taken 2 days off of work. I took Halloween and the day after off just to play this.
Yeah, when is Halloween? Let me see when is Halloween. Oh yeah, Halloween landed on a Thursday. That makes sense. Oh yeah, you landed perfectly. Thursday, Friday, and the weekend.
Sure did.
Yeah, so you for sure will be reviewing it for SG. So.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know about for sure. Who knows?
I think you can, because it's like I haven't heard it otherwise. So I think you should.
I don't know. I mean, I'll talk about it with Ains, I guess. Just like, I don't know if I can be unbiased. I don't. I don't want to influence the thing, because it's hard for me not, like, they would have to really screw something up for it not to feel like a 10 out of 10 for me. Like, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, that's what's so funny, because it's like because I reviewed Rebirth, and the tweet that posted that my review was like, "Our Final Fantasy VII super fan." I was like, "No, I'm not." Like, I just first played Final Fantasy VII last year, so it's like I'm just important. That's why I wanted to review it, because I knew that I wasn't gonna be painted by my nostalgia of 1997. But it was so funny. I was like so angry seeing that it was like super, because it was like, you're automatically already like painting this as like a super fan, thinks this game's amazing. Oh, what a shocker. That when that was the thing, I became a Final Fantasy fan last year. So I get that, but might as well take a shot. I feel there's a way for you to like review something even if you're a super fan, because I also believe that a super fan can also be more critical of something.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if we'll see what comes up. I don't know if we'll get code for it or not. Anyway, I have the
EA is weird. Yeah, EA has been weird. Like they sent this Jedi Survivor code at launch. So
yeah, because if we don't get code, like, again, I took the days off from work to play the game, so like I was not planning to play it early, but we'll see.
You're set.
See what happens. But,
we'll see. So, and the thing that excites me, Don, is that I finally met someone that loves Dragon Age as much as you have. I've never met someone like that. I met Mass Effect people like that.
We're a rare breed.
Yeah, so it's like that makes it so unique, and I'm glad I was able to get that, because at least I had that perspective, because I would be going into Dragon Age more for I've only played Inquisition. I started playing a normal Dragon Age 360 version just to be like, I want to see if I can do it. Then I read this really long. I was like, will I have the time to go through?
It's not that long. It's about 40 hours.
Okay. Yeah.
If you don't do all the side stuff and everything, it's about 40 hours. It's not that bad.
And it was holding up just fine, the 360 version. So I know the PC version is the best one, but you need mods.
No. PC's broken. PC has a memory leak that you need to
the mods to fix.
You need mods to fix the memory leak for PC.
360 version for people that want to play the old ones, like 360 version is working, and also Dragon Age 2. And they all have FPS boost if they're a frame rate fascist, like Travis is coined.
Travis, yeah.
So and now, Don, because this is also similar, kind of similar inkling for us, because we both play a lot. This is our main ecosystem. I had a slew of PlayStation topics kind of lined up, because they have had, like, I follow Radic, the real Radic, on Twitter, because he's so funny. He has had this like amazing. I'm gonna like add it in post. He has made this kind of like graphic of the we're so over, we're so over, we're so back, we're so over, it's so back, that has gone from it's so over with the Concord death that died after 11 days. The biggest blunder, if we have an addendum for that. Then for Astrobot release, and it's 94, the highest rated game of the year. But by the way, I feel Astrobot is actually massively overrated. But regardless of that,
I haven't played it.
Yes, and you said you don't like 3D platformers, so
not interested.
Exactly. So
not for that. Not for $60. Maybe if it's like $20 at some point. But
no, it's a really fun game. That's the thing. Like, it being considered one of the better games of this year, I agree. Being the highest rated game of the year,
I know, it's crazy.
In the benefit of hindsight, now and thinking about some of my thoughts about like how what that game does is like, I don't feel as high on that. I'll elaborate a little bit later. So it was like, yeah, absolutely, we're so back. And then PS5 Pro, the PS5 Pro reveal with a $700 price tag. We're so over. And then like once again up here, be like, oh, but PS5 Pro 30th anniversary edition. Yeah. Oh, we're so back in. And then double down here. It's like, oh no, we're down. It's like, oh yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn is getting a remaster, as well as possibly Days Gone. And then today, Sacred Symbols host Colin Moriarty said that he talked with on the record with a source from Concord that said that.
No, off the record on background.
Yeah, on the record on background. Sorry, yes. So, but he talked with someone directly. He can like divulge who the source was. That confirmed to him a bunch of horror stories about like, how Concord came to be, and that it had a $400 million budget in mix of what it was invested before Sony bought the team and what they invested on top of that. Yeah. To get the game that we got, that we played briefly for 11 days together. So it's like, after a whole generation where Xbox people have had to suffer a bunch of, it's so over, we're so back, we're so over, we're so back, we're so, it does feel funny because that's the thing, I play on PlayStation, I like PlayStation, but I'm not a PlayStation seller. Like, I can really look at, I'm feeling pretty critical about them in certain aspects, with like their drive first party and, their general attitude when they talk to us and all that. So it's not like I'm a diehard for them. I just have my investments on PlayStation. That's where I play most of my the Phil Spencer thing of saying the PS4 Xbox One generation, the most important generation, because that's when you're setting your library. And lo and behold, that's what happened. My library was there. That's what by default I was gonna stay on PS5. But it's been so funny seeing the sales having to go through what Xbox has been going for so long, and in the ways that they've been hit in just this last month.
Yeah, it's funny for me because I still do physical games. Most of my games are physical, so my library is not locked to PlayStation. I have a few digital games, I guess, that I actually don't mind rebuying games. If I like them enough, I'll buy them digitally as well, so that I have both.
When they hit like $5.
yeah, exactly. But I have a lot of physical games. Like I look over to my setup over here. There's a few games here, but this is a temporary living situation. So most of my games are at my home, and the fact that I don't have any desire to switch over is still, you know, there are people who do physical games. I don't want to play on Xbox. I have a 360. That's it. I've never had a really desire to play Xbox or Xbox's games until they started buying up things that I cared about, like Bethesda and whatnot.
Yeah, so but they basically bought themselves to the point that they have to give you those games now. So it's like it all pays off by itself.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I have a PC. I have a gaming rig. I have a very powerful PC. I have a 4090, and like I have it's.
You have an Xbox there. You have an Xbox because all their games are PC.
Right,
so
exactly. I have the Xbox. I built the PC because I didn't want an Xbox. I don't care about Xbox. I don't want their console. I'd rather play games on Steam. I'd rather have modding capabilities for the games that Xbox owns, like the Bethesda games. I'd rather have them on the PC, and so that's what I did. And I built the PC. It's like I said before. It's a year old. A little over now, and it's great. I love my PC. It was the perfect thing to play Aura on for the review and everything, because that's what it's for. And I really don't care about the Xbox platform, and I do care about the PlayStation platform. And so I don't interpret it as the we're so back, we're so over thing. Like I don't really care about an expensive pro console. Is it great? No, it's not consumer friendly, but nothing's consumer friendly right now. I think that what a lot of people are not taking into account is that everything is expensive. Nothing is cheap right now. Nothing is cheap. And so I don't want to sound, crazy here, but I feel like everyone's looking at the games industry as if it's in a bubble. And the economy is not super hot right now outside of the stock market, and the inflation that was destroying the economy, recently has abated a bit, but the prices haven't gone back down. So all of these things that are, the yen in Japan is worth nothing, right? Like all of these things factor in. And so should a console that's a mid-gen refresh be $700? No, it shouldn't be. That's ridiculous. But I think that it's something that Hogue said, is that it's over designed. And I think that's what Sony's problem has been, is that they're over designing their devices, in that they are maybe it's intentional, but they are seemingly intentionally designing their products out of the market for an average price point. I have a PSVR 2. I've played it a little bit, but I bought it at launch. I bought that thing because I wanted it, because I didn't have a PSVR 1 and I thought the PSVR 2 looked cool and it looked like it was really viable, and it had a Horizon game on it, which I have to I got to play a Horizon game. So
yeah, but it was okay, right? It wasn't that great.
I haven't even finished it. Just I had some other stuff going on that I couldn't play the VR for a while, so I'm gonna pick it up in a month or so and bring it back here. But yeah, it's just like they are pricing themselves out, and they may be doing that intentionally, and they may be trying to put themselves in a position where they come across as this luxury brand, and that's a choice. That is a choice that they're making. But I don't view that as it's so over because they're making these choices. That's just what they're doing, and if they want to do that, that's their choice, and we'll see the results of that choice, like with Concord costing $400 million. That is a choice that they made, and the result of that choice was a bad choice.
Yeah,
clearly.
That Concord thing, like when I saw that, when they posted, Colin posted his little clip from today's episode that I'm still listening to, I was like, wow. Because I was already, when I heard that Spider-Man 2 was $300 million to make, especially for a game that we talked, it's like, when you looked at it, it's like, oh, this must have probably cost $100 million because they reused so much stuff. They must have been really smart. No, they didn't. So I was already kind of like a racer session, like, oh man, if their kind of game is costing this much, it's like we're in dangerous territory. Them spending that much in Concord, and the things that they were apparently saying about Concord were allegedly they looked at it as the future of PlayStation, their future Star Wars is gonna cross-pollinate in like multimedia, kind of how we saw that they put the cart before the horse. Is gonna be at that Secret Levels TV show from Amazon that's coming out in December. They have a Concord episode, for Christ's sake, and for a game that had such little buy-in that they took out from the market after 11 days in the market, that they refunded it completely. That the entire cost, like even though it already had kind of like a cost of $200 million prior, that apparently when they presented their game, it had nothing. It was only the game. It was like so bare bones that they had to spend $200 million on top of it to just get what we got. That was a pretty solid, great looking,
a very solid shooter.
Yeah, very solid shooter with like very little on it that could be like added on top of it. It's like, man, it's like Sony right now is like in their spendings are like completely out of whack. And they had already kind of like when they did one of their financial statements around the time when Spider-Man 2 came out, is that this is the one thing a bunch of Xbox fanboys have been like kind of lynching on. It's like, but look how small their margin is. It's like, yeah, they're making, but look how small, like they're this close to hitting the red. Like, always trying to find the negative. I'm like, I see a $400 million budget for that thing that fails so catastrophically. Oh boy, now we know what it's like for them to spend this much on these kinds of games when it's not worth having to spend that much to make the most. It's like they're whacked over there.
I don't understand who. I wish we knew better who the decision makers were for certain things, because it's very clear that Concord was a high budget game. Even before we knew the budget, it was clear that it was a high budget game, but I think it was also clear that it wasn't worth that budget. I don't think that anyone who is actually ear to the ground of the games industry, or not even the industry, but the gaming populace, the people who play games, if anyone was listening to what they actually say in the decision makers of the Sony organization, they would have squashed Concord pretty quickly, or if not squashed it, had them overhaul it, because there's a lot of that game that is really cool. Like, that universe is really cool, and the gameplay itself was really fun. The characters are okay. I think some people are overblowing the bad character design of it, but it's just, nobody wants a hero shooter that's $40, and I don't even think people really want a free hero shooter. People don't want hero shooters anymore. Like, that's not something that's needed.
Yeah, everyone's like set in their ways. Like, even look at Overwatch. It's still pretty popular, but it's like the popularity of Overwatch is not even close to what it was when it was that big thing. When this thing was kind of like talked about by a few people back in 2016, kind of like when people were saying that this was an 80-year development.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, and then they came a clarify. I said, no, it didn't start development in 2016. That's when like we had an idea. That's when it like percolated. Like maybe we could do this.
Yeah, even if it was 6 years in development, you know, that's still, Overwatch was still popular. You're still on the high of the hero shooter. It's just, it was just too late. It was just too late for it. And I would love to know what the thought process was behind the people who greenlit this. And, you know, I think Colin said that this was considered Herman Hulst's baby or something in that thing, which is crazy to me because Herman Hulst's baby is Horizon, and Horizon is fantastic. So like, what was that? What did he see? I would love to know what he, or if it wasn't him, that could be a rumor, that could just be an assumption. But I'd love to know what the person saw.
Yeah, my hope would be that it was kind of like the baby when Jim Ryan probably demanded that they really wanted to go all in on live services, but he presented that we're going to launch 12 live services and see which one sticks. And that was said before, after Herman Hulst had apparently found this game, because he announced like early in 2021, I'm proud to announce that we're like partnered with Firebox Studios for like a potential new fun a shooter IP for PlayStation Studios and all that. So, and that was when it was still a second party thing. That was just a partnership before they bought in. So maybe that's what it was. It was his baby because he was like him trying to look into the market and find something that appealed. And all
it could have been anything. And it could have been anything. Really. And it's sad. It's sad that this is where we're at, because it's nice to see Astrobot and it's nice to see it do well and to see people love it so much, but that's not what I go to PlayStation for. I don't go to PlayStation for the Astrobots or the Concords. I go to I go to PlayStation for the Horizons, and to some extent for the God of Wars, and definitely for the Ghost of Tsushimas and all of those things. And I know it's silly for them to do the remasters of these games that are not that old, but people, it's like they know their audience and they don't know their audience. They know their audience wants these Horizon-like games, and they'll buy remasters of them because people bought remasters and remakes of The Last of Us, so they're going to buy remakes and remasters of Horizon.
That's what's funny. Online, you say they don't want it, but they keep buying them. So
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous to release the remaster of Horizon, but I'm not going to say, like, I'm not going to pretend like I'm not going to buy it. I probably will buy it because I do love that game. It is a wonderful game, and depending on what they do to it, maybe I'll just say, oh, it's not worth it because they didn't do anything. But I don't know. I won't prejudge whether something is worth buying before it's even been shown. You know, they could have done some sort of crazy overhaul. Maybe they brought the combat exactly as it was in Forbidden West into
the rumor. The funny thing of the Horizon remaster was first rumored late 2022. That was the first time I heard it. And the rumor was that they wanted to align it with Forbidden West. They wanted the facial animations to be like Forbidden West. They wanted the combat to be like Forbidden West. And I'm like, it's like, if it happens, that would happen with Last of Us earlier this year. They released Last of Us Part 2 Remaster for $50, but $10 if you already own a version of Horizon. I'm only gonna buy it if they give me that option for $10, because I wouldn't mind going through the Horizon again and trophies. Like I would be so weak just on trophies alone to kind of go through that experience again, like, because I feel like because I really did love that first one before it kind of got buried. It's like it was one of those most exciting trophy lists that was like tied to the completion of everything. So and because it was so fresh and new and so cool looking and work, it's just more that to me what feels so sad of hearing about this remaster where apparently Jeff Grubb from VentureBeat and Slash Giant Bomb and others are kind of being like kind of also implying that in this upcoming State of Play we might also hear of another remaster which might be Days Gone, which we already know Days Gone 2 is not happening. The director of that game and creator, it's like it has gone, and we know that they're working on a new IP. It's more like when you have a Sony that compared to previously that is so damn quiet. We don't get consistent showcases. We barely it's like the last showcase we got was May from last year. Before that was September 2021. It's like they have been going so long doing showcases. They act in a way where they remain so silent because it's like it hasn't mattered. In their silence, they have still won. While Xbox talking out of their ass all the time have lost. So it's like their silence has been like rewarded in the market. Like the PS5 is like from the 2 is like the console. So it's like when it's like you compare that silence to the fact that it's like, oh yeah, where are the new first party things? That's why the 2023 showcase was so disappointing for so many people.
It was awful.
Because it was like the first party announcement was Square Games, Concord, Marathon, and it's the first look at Spider-Man 2 gameplay. So it was like for like the thing you said that why you come for PlayStation 4, it was like, wait, it's just Spider-Man? And that feels extra disappointing considering like that Spider-Man 2 also was this amazing game that deserved the praise that it got. If
nowhere near as good as one. Nowhere near
exactly,
as good as
nowhere near as good. So when you really think about that, it's like, it starts feeling icky that it's like you're feeling the space with remasters because they are so stuck in long development cycles. They don't like, I don't know how big you were on were you big on Uncharted?
Nah, not really. I don't really like Naughty Dog. I think Naughty Dog is the most massively overrated studio in Sony's first party. I think that their games are good at best. I think Last of Us has a really, really good story and its characters, but I don't have any. I think it plays terribly. I think Uncharted plays terribly. I think Naughty Dog knows how to write a good story, but they forgot how to make a good game.
I wouldn't completely disagree with that because I feel like in gameplay wise, I feel like studios like Sony Santa Monica and Insomniac do games that play better for sure.
Yeah, I never even played Last of Us Part 2. I don't have any interest in it really.
Yeah, so it's like in that it's still like they're still at such a highly celebrated studio that has now not put out a game since Last of Us Part 2 came out, and like and then when you just start seeing all of this, like where we are currently, where it's like. Earlier in the year, they were like, hey, I don't expect big franchise sequels this year. Start expecting them after April 2025 next year. A lot of people are like, oh, so I mean, no first party. No, it's like, no, there are first party, and that's where we got Concord and Astrobot. And obviously, Concord died, and Astrobot is Astrobot, and which is you were gonna say?
I was just saying, it's so funny because I think I prefer Sony not talking. I don't need the publishers to talk if they don't have anything to say. I don't want a showcase of nonsense. I don't want a state of play of nonsense. I don't want Xbox talking nonsense all the time and saying things that don't make any sense and lying and like, no. If you want to talk, have something to say, because I know, and you know, and everybody knows that they are making these games. They are making them. They have to be. That's their business. They have to make these games. So as long as you use your brain and you remember that this is what they do, then you're fine in the silence. I don't need to hear Sony talk until they actually have something to say. If they did a showcase in 2021 and they didn't do another showcase until 2025, I don't care, because they would have something to say.
Yeah,
they would have something to say.
And you still got the things that they had announced before. Basically, from the 2020 and 2021 showcases, all of that is out except Wolverine. Wolverine is like
look at like EA. You know, EA is not usually the best example of things, but EA used to do their EA Play show, and they used to have things to announce. And then when they realized that they stopped having things to announce, they stopped doing a show. And that's not great because they just pivoted towards, you know, the occasional thing made by Respawn and BioWare and then all their sports games. But the point is they stopped doing a show because they stopped having things to talk about. If you don't have a thing to talk about, then you don't need a show.
And I feel right now this is a tension that exists because they used to talk a lot, even back in PS4. They would announce all their games, that their entire lineup of games for the rest of the generation used to be like announced. And they were
always releasing them. They kept releasing them. They were coming quicker. So they were announcing things and they released things. They were announcing things, and that's just because the developer cadence was faster. And that's good. If the developer cadence is fast enough to warrant more frequent conversations and more frequent showcases or state of plays, then do them. If it doesn't warrant it, then don't do it. I would rather not, you know, sit on my couch for an hour while you're showing me Fair Games and Concord and you know, other random partner games that you throw in there. I don't need you to do that. You don't need to do that for me, and I don't need to waste my time doing that. It's not worth it because you don't have anything to show yet. Wait until you have something to show me and then blow it out. That's great.
Yeah. I would disagree slightly with the partner stuff because, especially for this year, partners has been what's been feeding me on the PS5. Because
absolutely, I want to see the partners. I just mean that if they're gonna do a showcase, then you know they need to make it clear that this is just a part. It's like a partner showcase. This is a partnership. Microsoft, for all the nonsense that they do, they specify when things are like focused on their third parties or their first parties a lot, and Nintendo does it too. Nintendo's you know part. I just. Be clear in your messaging. If you have a marketing deal with Silent Hill and you have it on your platform for a while exclusively, great. Then you can have that in your thing and fine.
What's so funny is that they actually do say for state of play. So they announce the state of play in the PlayStation Blog. They actually specifically mention it's like this is for third parties. They do that, but for showcases they didn't.
Right.
when they put it in a showcase. That's why that last showcase was so bad for them.
Yeah.
Because they didn't set the right expectation for it. How little they have, because they should know what their audience is like. I've been on the, here's the thing, I wasn't against Concord fundamentally system, because I have been already in the boat of, look, they have their first party, they know what they have nailed. I like my first party to also have a little bit of variety. That's why I love Asteroid. It's kind of like, hey, I know that it's about the cinematic games, like they do them, but it's okay to also have that kind of game, because that's kind of like a little variety. Variety to me is the spice of life. And and the fact that in that showcase they had all just these new things that had nothing to show, by the way. We didn't see what Fur Games was about. Concord was just a bird.
Nope.
And Marathon was also just kind of like an abstract art look at some characters and all that. I just know that it was Bungie doing it. So it's like, that was the problem. It was like, it was so intangible. And then Concord like disappointed everyone for waiting an entire year and thinking, oh, it's gonna be a story. Maybe it's gonna be like a 4-player co-op thing with this crew that's Guardians of the Galaxy. And they were like, no, it's a 5v5 hero shooter. That completely was like, no, this is not what I want. And we played it, at least it was good, but a lot of people didn't buy into that. It's like, they have not had a good way of like presenting a new identity for their first party. And what people want from them is like, a lot of people are like, feel very uncertain now, because now everything that has been announced is basically out. So it's like, and there's been a lot of people who are so anxious. And what's been so funny is that this has been a year where I realized that their first party is not what I need to kind of like enjoy gaming. Like,
yeah, and that's a good thing. It's good to play other games, you know, that's important.
Yeah, it's like, just because like, for example, like anyone that tried to downplay Rebirth or Stellar Blade or Rise of the
Stellar Blade was so good. I love Stellar Blade. My girlfriend and I played that whole game together. I showed her the demo of it like months ago. And she was like, ooh, I want to watch you play this game. And I said, okay, cool. And so we played the whole thing together. It took a few months until we had the time to do it. I only just played it like 2 months ago, but it was so much fun. I sit there and she would play the dress up part of the character and make Eve look like whatever she wanted to out of all the outfits. And then I'd run around and do all the fighting. We had a great time doing that. Like, that was awesome. And she loved the story and found that fun. Like, second party is great, but the first party is important because they're supposed to be the console sellers. You know, they're supposed to be the things that people buy the console for. And when you start announcing $700 pro consoles and fancy 30th anniversary editions of those consoles, what am I playing on it? Why am I buying this? And there are suckers. I'm the sucker. I'm gonna buy one, but not everyone's a sucker. And I can admit when I'm a sucker, and I want a pro because I have a 4K OLED TV from Samsung that's fancy, and I want to have things look really, really pretty on there, and I want them running well, because I do have the ability to have the like 120 down to 40 like hertz, like you were saying earlier. You didn't have the TV for. I have that. I want to be able to do that, and it's a sorry not sorry kind of moment. Like I'm willing to put the money forward to do that, and that's great for them, but not everyone's going to do that. And the people that are on the fence about it need a reason. They need to see what's
and the reason on. Unfortunately is right now, especially where they are right now, why I understand why that fan base feels like it's so over, we're so bad, it's so over right now, because of like the timing of it all. But like in a year where there's a transition of CEOs where Jim Ryan was like kicked out the door, thank God. So it was like he left, and I'm still gonna blame the Concord thing on him, because he was the one that presented the vision for live service.
I mean, the buck stops with the leader always, for sure.
And
which is why it's ridiculous that Microsoft has left the Xbox leadership team in place. But you know,
but that would be like going down another another rabbit hole. That it will take us.
I know. We're coming up on time. I know you wanted to get going.
No, but it's like that's what it's so fascinating where PlayStation is with this over this last month, because it's like that. And it's kind of like what quickly I want to say about like the Astro thing. The timing of what Astro does is hilarious, because it's like, it's a game about, let's celebrate all about the history of PlayStation. But when you're celebrating that history and you see like the icons being celebrated within that history, it's like, hey, a bunch of these icons have been dead. Sony has done nothing with them. And like, and one of the bigger features that has been like missing for 8 years, it's like one of their headliners, obviously Horizon. It's like a franchise that under Herman Hulse is starting to feel like an industry plant, almost with hey, let's green light a Lego game. Let's green light the remaster. And we have
Works
that.
for me. I love Horizon.
Yeah.
I'm buying the heck out of that Lego game. Like I've never bought a Lego game in my life.
I'm playing it too because I'm
one.
so curious. Like I play Lego games. I want to see how Lego games work for that. And the MMO with NC sub happening and all that. It's like, you know that Horizon's been like pushed very heavily. A bunch of the things that made PlayStation has been kind of like not being used at all and kind of parroted as their corpses in Astrobot. It is an objective, almost 10 out of 10 platformer that because it's a big thing of it is celebrating the brand. It came to celebrate the brand at its weirdest spot. At its worst spot when there's like they had their biggest first party blunder in history in Concord, where they're about to release again remasters for Horizon and Days Gone. When they're trying to sell you a $700 PS5 Pro, and also announcing the 30th anniversary thing, that when I literally was like, I think I'm good with PS5 Pro right now because like it's not that I fully 100% need it, and I don't know how I'm gonna get it here and how expensive it's gonna be here. And because you know about Sony, like I bought my PS5 for $649 because I bought it here. So it'd been $700, wasn't too bad, all things considered in my context. But then I knew that it was gonna be $1,000. But then I saw the 30th anniversary, I'm like, crap. Me that I love PlayStation all the way to the PS1. I mean, it's like the testicular fortitude for that is going to be tested on the 26th. So it's like, it is very interesting, like where the brand has been and how the fan base has felt with all of this, because this has definitely been like for people in the Xbox side, haven't waited for so long for the PS side to feel a little bit of heat or kind of like some friction of like what's happening with like no roadmap, like them being remastering literally everything. And it's like, what's the new game? I say like the PS5 Pro announcement had actually had new games to kind of show it, they would have gone completely different.
I think they're going to do something at TGS. I know there's rumors of a state of play next week, but you know, TGS is probably they haven't been at TGS in like 5 years, so I feel like why would they go again? Why would you go if you don't have anything to say? I mean, they've been doing it all the time, not you know, saying things when they have nothing to say, but specifically at TGS, they haven't done that in a while.
Yeah, so. Especially after Japan has been like so wildly neglected for so long that they have brunted the worst of the price increases because of the weak yen. So so it's like it's such fascinating times for the brand because it's like I still play on it, but I still don't feel too rosy about it. And Astrobot was like I've had so many conversations, people like, thank God Astrobot came in to save the year. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, Astrobot literally has just come and gone for me. It's like, it was just another game that I played, the million things I played this year. Like, Reaver's still my number one. I think hopefully Dragon Age could beat it, or Metaphor. We'll see. Like, those are like my big October games. But it's like, it's been like so funny. Like, so how just topsy-turvy it's been, like if you're kind of like in that camp. But it's still, and ironically, like it's like that. And I feel like I played my PS5 more than I've ever played it in this past generation because
I definitely played my PS5. I play my PS5 all the time. It's my daily driver of a console, even though because I work. You can see the keyboard and mouse over there. That's my work keyboard and my work mouse over there. So like that's I work at this desk that I play games at this computer and everything. But I'm a PS5 daily guy because I like sitting on my couch and chilling and relaxing a lot of the time, and it's fun that way. And you know, when Horizon's remaster comes out, I'm probably gonna play it there as well. You know, maybe I'll buy it on PC.
I'm wondering if it's gonna be a launch game for the PS5 Pro. Because here's the thing: every time that they
could be.
Yeah, because I think every time that they rate something at the ESRB, when we find those leaks, they're imminent. That's how if we found out about the Iki Island expansion for Ghost of Tsushima. It leaked like in June. It was out in August. So it could, and we're still technically 2 months away, and they probably still want to...
So let's do some math here. So if Horizon's out with the launch of the PS5 Pro, and the PS5 Pro is out in November, what huge game is coming out in November so that it'll overshadow Horizon and screw it a third time? Who knows, right?
The funny thing is,
I was being sarcastic in that joke, you know. But...
The funny thing is, I was gonna say he would have already been lapped because the week before is Dragon Age. if it becomes big, and the week after is Assassin's Creed Shadows. Yep. So that took much for something.
Frustrated, so stupid. So on the topic of the Pro and the 30th anniversary edition version of it, that's coming out the 21st. Of November, so they're delaying that. So because I'm tempted to buy the 30th anniversary edition. I'm not gonna lie. I might try to get it, but if I did get it, I would almost feel better about myself because Dragon Age is out 1 week before, and I have the PS5 version of Dragon Age pre-ordered, and so I'd be like, oh, that sucks that it's like, oh no, I'm so close to the pro, but it's like, oh no, my pro is not getting here to the end of the month, so it's okay. So like, that would almost make me feel better.
Yeah, because you wouldn't be like, oh, if I wait just 4 days to just play it with like I get it. Yeah. And there's always that weird mental hurdle when you know a better machine is around the corner.
It is a hurdle, but the other hurdle is that a computer is better than both of them. So like I could just play it on the computer, but I'm not, because I want the trophies, and that brings us back to the trophies.
I know, exactly, and that's why like sometimes those ecosystems are so smart and kind of like leave you entrenched.
Yeah,
not quite just in fanboy terms, but it's just like sometimes like some ecosystems speak better. I know a lot of people like the achievement system because it feels like they can get as many achievements as they want, and they don't feel bad about not getting the final check mark. While trophies feels like a badge.
I love that trophy, that platinum trophy ding. I love it.
Yeah, I am gonna, because you got out of the platinum, I'm gonna get it too, because I'm like, I wanted to be, especially when the saves are borked and all that. I was so afraid. I don't want to like commit if for some reason my review era save kind of like got borked, but I'm gonna still give it a shot. Because
I think you'll be fine, because if it's a progress blocker and you're done with the progress of the game, you should be okay.
So, yeah, when you told me anything about progress blocker, I was like, yeah, I beat the game, so there's no progress to be blocked.
I think it should be okay. Yeah, I think there was an issue like getting from space to the planet after a certain point of the story or something. But if you've done the story, then you shouldn't have any issues.
Yeah. So as a final thing with the 30th anniversary, Amazon I think is gonna have it, so you'll be able to.
They all have it, but they don't have the 30th anniversary version of it. They all have the pro, but not the 30th
so
anniversary.
The 30th anniversary is just direct. Ooh.
Yeah, if you look at the website of the thing, it specifically says on the very bottom of the website, and I'm looking at it right now.
I thought it said that participating retailers from like what I saw.
Well, it says PlayStation 30th Anniversary Collection purchase information. In regions where PlayStation Direct is available, players with a PlayStation Network account can pre-order the following PlayStation 30th Anniversary Collection products exclusively from PlayStation, starting September 26th.
Yeah,
and then it lists the Pro Console 30th Anniversary Edition limited bundle, limited edition bundle, and that's it. And then if you look below, the digital edition of it is available from participating retailers, and the DualSense is from participating retailers. But the way this reads is it's exclusively from the that's how it reads, at least.
Yes, yeah, I'm the collection purchase information. Yeah, I logged into the PlayStation blog for that. So yeah,
that's how it looks to me. So.
Yeah, but so for you specifically, because direct PlayStation is in the US, so yeah, you would have to do it there. So I am really curious to see if my store Omnisport is called brings it, because I have credit line with them, and if I can get it, I'm gonna go for it. If I can pay it through credit. So as we conclude this week's episode, Don, I'm gonna read us the release calendar, the release calendar for September 22nd to September 28th. I put 22nd. Over here, I'm an idiot. So, okay, so out of September 24th, we have Ara History Untold coming to PC review, coming from Don here this Sunday, and Epic Mickey Rebrushed, the remake for the 2010 Epic Mickey platformer, coming to PC, PS4 and 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and Switch on September 24th. You can play a demo now. I tried and I'm like, I'm good for a sale for that one. Greedfall 2 comes to PC also on the 24th, but as you kind of mentioned, I think it's the early access, right? Not the full release. It is
early access. It is apparently so early access that it is bad.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I love Greedfall 1. I will play Greedfall 2 when it's finished, if it ever gets finished, because I believe they're on strike.
Yeah, because of weird stuff happening there in France and them being paid.
Yeah.
Then on the 25th, we got a Lollipop Chainsaw Repop coming to PC, Switch, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S. I know there were some people already playing and saying that it's pretty bad.
I haven't seen anything about it. I couldn't say.
Yeah, I got this. I saw some clips on Twitter. I was like, I thought, this is out. Oh no, apparently it's out next week. The big Switch game, The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom, coming on September 26th, but also an equally bigger game, because it's been all the rage since it came out in all systems and PC earlier, Balatro. It's coming to mobile on September 26th. I feel mobile is going to be perfect for that game, knowing the kind of card game it is.
I haven't played it. I don't have any interest in it. I love real gambling. I don't want to do fake roguelike gambling. I don't like roguelikes. So.
Yeah, makes sense.
I'll throw real dice or play real poker.
Yeah. Earth Defense Force World Brothers 2 coming to PS4, 5, and Switch also on September 26th. And finally, to my chagrin, EA Sports FC 25 coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC, Xbox One, and Switch on September 27th. No PS4 version, that's weird.
I put so much time into FC24.
Oh, okay. You love FC? Like, I hate FIFA.
I don't love FC. I've played 2 of them. I played FIFA 22 and I played FC 24. I'm not gonna play 25. It's like an occasional thing to play because my buddy is a big fan of. He's the reason I got into soccer in the first place and watching it. And he's a Tottenham fan, so we play together. And I put too much time into it. I didn't put any money into it, but I'm good for this year.
I mean, they give it for free very often on PS Plus, so you can usually, if you wait, you can play them there. I had, especially in the PS2 360 era, I had such a hatred for FIFA and what it did for my gaming circles, because that's all my friends played. If I wanted to play any other cool things, like, they would all just care so much.
My buddy's the same way,
Yeah, so it's like that was my hatred for it. I don't care as much anymore about that, but
it's kind of fun still. Like, if you like soccer, it's kind of fun. You get to learn the players, and it's helpful.
To me, it's like, I'm very extra when it comes to, like I said, when I catch a stray game of a team that I'm mildly interested, I'll pay attention, but it's not something. I'm not much of a sports guy, so
my brother, soccer and Tottenham is the only thing that I watch in terms of sports. I watch all their games. I have all the streaming apps, so like Paramount for Carabao or whatever else. It's fun.
And my brother is a big FIFA/FC fan, so I bet he's gonna buy this one. So
there you go.
And with that, we reach the conclusion to this week's episode of the Xbot. And Don, where can people find you? Paint yourself out if you want to be found.
Yeah, sure. So you can find my articles on Seasoned Gaming's website, of course. Just search for my name, Joseph La Russa, on Twitter/X. I am at Joseph_La_Russa because, that's the kind of person that I am. And that's pretty much it. I am not super active on Twitter and things like that in terms of tweeting myself, but I do respond to a lot of people. I like to send responses to things that I see, and I'll advertise my own articles and reviews and stuff when I'm doing things. But that's it. Feel free to follow. Sometimes I'm interesting, I guess. I don't know.
And then you can find me at A_Segovia on Twitter/X, and Alejandro_Segovia93 on Instagram/Threads. And you can find my current written content at seasongaming.com, where you can read my reviews for The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, Skull and Bones, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Final Fantasy 16 The Rising Tide, the garbage TMNT mutant TMNT game that I'll never say its full name, Stellar Blade, and Star Wars Outlaws. Next review is still pending. Maybe impressions of this Prince of Persia DLC that I already heard my thoughts of here, or Space Marine 2 for Warhammer 40k. I still need to finish a bunch of its multiplayer stuff because we cannot review stuff without seeing a bunch of this stuff. That's kind of like the rule. So, and that done, that brings us here. I want to thank everyone for listening to this week's episode. If you like what you listen, give us a like, give us a subscribe, leave a comment, say what you like or you didn't like about it. And I'll see you next week at the same time, same channel. And enjoy all the games that are happening now that we're beginning the fall. And press X to play. You all have a good day. Hasta la vista, baby.